All right, Erie County fam, I know you all have been waiting for this. We're going to go ahead and get this show on the road. Um, Tonight, we're going to have a little discussion between um, Long Island Audit and Bryant from Here's the Deal. And I'm going to pretty much stay out of this and sit back and let these two discuss what they have started discussing and give them a neutral channel to discuss it all on. And I'm going to go ahead and let you guys talk it out.
Hey, Sean, I'll let you start. Go ahead.
Hey, how you doing, Brian? Hey, Dan. Thanks for having us here. Yeah, so I guess I would just like to start, Brian, and I just want to preface this by just saying, listen, I hope at the end of this discussion that we have that, we're closer for it and that, we're closer to achieving the goals we want to achieve in this country. But I would just like to know, just to preface everything, I don't know much. Unfortunately, I don't know much about your belief system. So, in order for me to properly have a discussion with you, I think I would need to know exactly where do you stand on a certain topic. As far as, um, I know you, like, for example, I don't know if you want to, get rid of all laws. What is your like belief on, for example, there are some in the community that say, DUI should be legal, or things of that nature. Is that your opinion? Because that's what I thought it was from what I heard from other people, but I just wanted to get it directly from you.
I would just there's so many things I could say because it's kind of a general topic, but it specifically hits home to every single individual in America and by extension, everybody in the world, because we're supposed to be that light, the city on the hill. But I would encapsulate it by saying politics. And I say this a lot on my channel, so I hope people aren't, I've said this ad nauseum basically, but politics is the clever and deceptive art of using euphemisms, lies, emotionalism, and fear mongering in order to dupe average people like you and me into accepting and even demanding the chains of our own enslavement. When they give us an opportunity to vote for a candidate, the person you're voting for is owned. He's owned by both teams. Congress is owned. It's been owned for a long time. And how do we know this? Because back prior to 1913, we had a sound money supply that was dependent on gold and silver, which was the constitutional prescription for money. Once we crossed over into that, we fulfilled basically a prophecy of Amschel Rothschilds, who said, "Give me control over a nation's money, and I care not who makes its laws." So now we're operating on a credit system based on debt, and every note that you have in your pocket is not a dollar; it's a Federal Reserve fiat currency Ponzi representation of a system, which means that somebody can control the value of our time and labor. So when we talk about law enforcement and when we talk about politicians, we have to know that the underbelly, the bottom line bedrock root of what's wrong with this problem, with this country, is we don't have sound money. We have a dishonest fiat currency Ponzi scheme that's dependent on two things. It's the perception of the United States American people, but it depends on two things. It's the force and might of the military industrial complex and oil, because of this, the breaking of the Bretton Woods Agreement and the 1971 Nixon, took us off the gold standard and we went completely on OPEC oil. So that is the fundamental problem with the nation. And because we have that fundamental problem, we absolutely have nothing but corruption in politics. It's funny to me that anybody would involve themselves in politics, because we know that politicians are synonymous with liars. That anybody would have a nanoparticle of confidence in a politician who's saying, "Oh, I'm going to create laws that's going to create more money for you. We're going to put more money in your pocket. It's going to give you more freedom." And then every time, especially on the federal level, when you have a president or you have the state governors, you not only have less freedom, you also have less money in your pocket because the government has wasted more money. And as an offshoot of that, we have police forces that absolutely violate the Constitution every single day. And when I say Constitution, let me be real specific. I'm just talking about those parts in the Constitution, specifically the Bill of Rights, that are in line with freedom, individual freedom. You own your body. I own my body is the basic part of it. Nobody has a higher claim over my life and property than you. Nobody has a higher claim over your life and property than me, and vice versa with you. So if anybody tries to cross that line and tell you you can't put something in your body, or you can't have that firearm to protect yourself, or you can't own that property because we're going to get property taxes, that is a direct violation of human rights. And that on every level, I don't care if you're a cop, claim to be a politician, or just the regular Joe Schmo in the street, every one of us needs to resist that, because that is the fundamental issue we're talking about here. We're talking about tyranny. We're talking about a man oppressing another man in violation of his consent and against his will. So, and that's what so let me ask you a question. So that's where I'm at. So I'm
Right. I just,
apolitical.
I'll answer your question, I promise. But
Okay.
I don't
Okay.
think,
Wait,
and I agree with I agree with everything that you just said. Well said. And I agree with everything you just said. I would just like the answer to my question was, my question was, do you believe that all laws such as driving under the influence, because like I said, I don't know your take on that. For example, like, do you think all laws that don't have a victim are unconstitutional or should not be enforced by law enforcement? Driving under the influence, for example, that's just an example I'm just giving you because I've had a discussion with another activist in our community about that, and I just wanted to see from that perspective.
okay.
Everything you said was well said, and I agree with everything you said. You won't find any disagreement with anything that you just said. I just want to know how far does your victimless crime go as far as getting rid of laws?
Well, there's a lot of nuance to it, but basically, if there is no victim, there's no crime, and the state can
Right.
never be the victim, because the state is always the victimizer. They're always stealing. The state can only exist through the extortion of the people that they claim to be protecting and serving. So the state can't be a victim. Does
Okay.
that answer? Does that answer your question?
That does answer my question.
Okay.
And you're obviously you're entitled to your opinion on that. I would think that maybe because I'm flawed, maybe I'm not flawed, maybe I'm biased on the fact that my niece lost her legs to a drunk driver at the age of 3 years old, and I don't think that people should be driving drunk. I'm sure you don't think
I
that
don't
as
know. I
well.
don't either.
I know you
Oh,
don't.
wait. Let me clarify, because I think I wasn't clear enough on something, and I gave you a preconceived misunderstanding. I'm not against rules. I'm just against rulers.
Gotcha.
I think it's good for society to
Perfect.
have rules. I think that's good.
Gotcha. Now, okay. That helps me understand, and like I said, I just wanted to preface our conversation with that. Okay, so we're basically having this conversation. You made a video about we had a discussion in a live chat on Leroy Truth's channel, and then you made a video about following orders, because I had mentioned about Captain Raposo, that he's following the law that was passed in that area. In context, I just wanted to clarify that I wasn't saying that he's okay or he's a good cop for just following orders. I know a lot of people in the chat, or even, I get it, the thumbnail and stuff like that, they might think that and associate with that, but that's not what I was saying at all. I was just saying when I said that, I was trying to find a solution for the problem of tyranny in our country. And like you said, I'm a big proponent of a Second Amendment rights. Like you said, you read the website of the North Bergen Police Department, and they require permits for. I'm a big. You should. Me and you, we're not going to disagree on much. I can tell you that right now. The other thing that we probably disagree on is to call to say that all police officers, law enforcement in our country are Gestapo, right? Because
Mm.
that's something we don't agree on, and not because there aren't Gestapo like police officers in our country. I've met a few of them myself. I like to think that when people are watching this, they look at both of our bodies of work. You've done great work in your field. I'd like to think that I've affected some change in mine, and I like to would people to look at both of our words with the context of our work as well in our actions, because I think actions are very important, especially when we're dealing with activism. But the reason I take a little issue with likening all law enforcement in our country to Gestapo is I think that it disrespects the people that lived under the Gestapo, because when you look at the facts of it, when you look at the facts, I've dealt with Gestapo police officers before in this country. They definitely exist. But when you look at the facts, the Gestapo killed 500,000 people a year, right? Law enforcement in our country kills, estimates between 600 and 1,200 people a year. Horrible. Not one person should die at the hand of law enforcement. I think we all can agree there. Not one. Horrible. But it's just when you're comparing two things, and then you look at the facts between them about Gestapo killing 500,000, torturing people, hanging them, we could talk about, torturing as far as, putting people in handcuffs, putting people in cells. Just to be clear, I've been arrested a total of 9 times since I've started my activism 3 years ago. So a total of 9 times in 3 years. Um, and I fought every single one of them in this corrupt court system that we have, that I'm sure we could both agree on. And you know, thankfully, I've won every single case. But the point is that we could talk about levels of things, but when you're talking about, when you just keep saying all law enforcement are like Gestapo, are the Gestapo, I think that puts, I think that just serves to divide, and it's not accurate. It's not accurate as far as the facts go, and I think that it only serves to divide country, because there's, as you know, Brian, there are people out there that are going to lick boots no matter what. They're going to be, they want to be ruled, like you said. They want to be ruled. That's what they're looking for, and you're never going to change their mind. They want to be ruled. They think all cops are heroes. What they're indoctrinated to that belief. Outside of, I don't know how many police departments you've been to, Brian, but every police department that I've seen, they have "thank you to our heroes" and all this propaganda posted outside of these law enforcement agencies, like, oh, there are first responders, our heroes, et cetera, et cetera. And the people, and there are people out there that really get, indoctrinated by this propaganda and say, they are heroes. They're just doing their job. They're heroes. They're out here saving lives every day, and that's what they think. They think in their mind that law enforcement's out there saving lives every day, and you and I know different. They're robbing people of their money on the street. They're putting people in jail unjustifiably. So it's a problem. What I'm talking about are the people that are kind of like in the middle, and I've kind of seen, which is why I think the Gestapo saying that all law enforcement. You compared, for example, Captain Raposo to the Gestapo. Captain Raposo, I happen to know him. He did the First Amendment training, which we were talking about. That's when we had our discussion in the live stream. He did the First Amendment training in another department that he didn't get paid for. He did it on his own time. He didn't know it was going to be recorded. It wasn't. He did it because all indicators, and what he told me, indicate that he says that he did it just because of, he wanted to try and spread, some knowledge about First Amendment auditors and activists, and respecting people's rights and treating them with respect. So when you compare him to a Gestapo, it's kind of like, what purpose does that serve, right? What purpose does comparing all law enforcement, even law enforcement that are actively on their own time, in not getting paid to do so, not any no publicity about it, because he didn't. Yes, there was a camera there, but he had no idea that camera was going to be there. And Leroy Truth can tell you that. How many people could say that, there was a law enforcement officer that went in Florida. I'm sure you covered it on your channel, that grabbed up her supervisor. I forgot the department off the top of my head. That he was about to pepper spray a man that was handcuffed in the car. She grabbed him. He choked her. Is she Gestapo? Like, she directly went against the thin blue line and grabbed up her supervisor to protect a citizen from his tyrannical behavior. And I just think that it really it doesn't serve what the overall goal is, and that's to change the minds of the people, right? Because we can't get any change in this country without changing the minds of the people, of the people that have been indoctrinated into believing that law enforcement officers are heroes, and we both know that's not the case.
Can I just jump in real quick?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. We need to change the minds of the people, because, like you just pointed out, there's heavy propaganda. There's incessant propaganda. It doesn't stop. We all are subject to certain levels of propaganda and buying into propaganda, which leads us into cognitive dissonance. But what is your understand? When I say Gestapo, what is your understanding of that? What meaning do you take away from that?
Well, I take it at its face value, right? So I take it at the face value of when you're comparing all officers all law enforcement officers in this country to the Gestapo. I'm taking it at face value, meaning that I am looking at what the Gestapo. I love history. I'm a big fan of history. My favorite quote is, "Those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat itself, or are doomed to repeat it." I think we need to learn from history, and I think that there are some indicators right now in our country that, with limiting on firearms and things of that nature. If you study history, that's the first thing that takes away the firearms from the people before the government goes completely tyrannical. But when I take it at face value, so I'm thinking, okay, Gestapo. I know the Gestapo as somebody who studied history in college and in high school. The Gestapo killed millions of people over the course of the better of a decade. I believe 12 years the Holocaust lasted. So the Gestapo killed over 6 million people. And when you look at the same numbers that law enforcement has done, it's nowhere close. It's not even in the same realm of, you can't even compare the two, right? So for me, it's I'm looking at it in that lens, and I'm trying to understand. I understand what you're trying. I think, again, I don't want to put words in your mouth. This is why I'm having this discussion with you. I want to understand better. But I think, in my perspective, I think what you're trying to do is to try and say that, listen, these people don't care about you. They're going to enforce the law, which is, in direct violation of your God-given rights and your freedoms. And I can understand that to a certain point, but I'm talking about what you just agreed, that we need to change the minds of Americans in this country. Everybody that's in this chat right now or watching this, everybody that watches this live is going to agree that that this country is full of tyrants and that the system's unjust. But there are people out there, and I've received emails, I've received comments that, I used to hate what you guys did. I used to hate, I used to be the biggest bootlicker, and now I'm not a bootlicker anymore. I've watched some of your videos, I watched others' videos, and now that I fully understand, yeah, cops don't really care about us. They're not heroes. They're not, they're not the heroes that I've always say in my videos. Like, a hero is a title that's earned. You don't get it just by taking a job and putting on a badge and a gun every single day when you wake up. So are there cops that done heroic deeds? Sure. I don't know any, but I don't know any that's done any heroic deeds, but I'm sure they have, saved somebody from an exploding car. I don't know. But the point is that not all cops are heroes, and I don't think that I know all cops are not Gestapo, because just at face value, maybe you're thinking about it in a different way, but at face value, they're just not. Just if you compare the facts, and I think it doesn't serve to help change the minds of the people that are in the middle in our country that say, you know what, I like the police, you know what, I like freedom, but which way am I going to go here? Oh, this guy's just calling. Oh, they're just all Gestapo. That's not right. Because they're not.
Well, can I
There's.
let me
Go
clarify
ahead.
real quick.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Because you also pointed out, and I totally agree, that there are levels to tyranny. There are degrees to which somebody's a tyrant, and tyrant takes many faces and many forms, and operates on many different degrees and levels. So I know for a fact that not all Gestapo or SS members had a hand in loading people in boxcars, but I also know that in the 1930s Germany, people were forced at gunpoint to load onto those rail cars, but maybe a block away, a handful of Gestapo police stopped somebody to inspect their papers. Papers, please. That's Gestapo. In another part of the community, maybe they're ransacking a home so they can confiscate weapons. That's Gestapo. So Gestapo type actions belong to people whose behavior aligns with anti-freedom, pro-tyranny, and no matter what level of oppression, because we got to ask ourselves as Americans, because like you said, we've been propagandized, and we need to break through to the minds of people so that they can come on board the freedom train. Because if we don't get a bunch of
100%.
people, they don't get a bunch of people, if we don't get a bunch of people understanding what liberty it is and being willing to say liberty or death, I'm going to go to my grave. As long as I got a little semblance of freedom, I'm going to resist tyranny. But that leads us to the question of how much tyranny is acceptable tyranny. When I hear that somebody got stopped and they were made insecure in their person, it incenses me. It may not be as jarring or shocking as the Daniel Shaver dying in the hallway of that La Quinta Inn in Mesa, Arizona at the hands of Philip Brailsford, but it still is tyranny. It still is Gestapo. So when I say all cops are Gestapo because they are a part of the Thin Blue Line gang, I'm talking about they operate on many different levels of tyranny, none of which is acceptable. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about Gestapo. So for example, let's just go, and I'm fully aware that Captain Raposo may be watching this. And so I would just ask you, Mr. Raposo, to search your own heart. If after Captain Raposo gave a 5-star dissertation on why we should respect auditors in the First Amendment, he leaves and enforces an anti-Second Amendment gun law and treats somebody as a felon and puts him in a cage after he gave that, stellar performance, that's Gestapo. I don't care what your words are. If your department, if your gang, if your corrupt organization has said that, hey, if we catch any inhabitants of New Jersey with a firearm to dare protect themselves, or they're walking around with a concealed weapon without our permission, we're going to lock them up. That's Gestapo. And I don't care what good words come out of Captain Raposo's mouth.
So let's talk about that then. Let's talk about the Second Amendment and permits and things of that nature. So what are your beliefs on the Second Amendment? For example, can a 13-year-old have a gun? Is entitled to a gun, or is what is there, are there any rules or limits on the Second Amendment in your mind, or is it just,
I
anybody could have or is there like mental health, like if somebody's schizophrenic, you see like all these horrible things that are happening, and the mainstream media always want to propagate, use it as propaganda and anti-gun movement, and then the left of our both corrupt sides want to use it as, let's take away our more rights, more Second Amendment rights, But what are your thoughts? I'm curious to hear. What are your thoughts on? Are there should be any limits on Second Amendment as far as age restrictions, mental health, or anything of that nature?
I personally don't want bad guys or children with guns, but I don't want the bad guys of government limiting anybody's ability to have a gun. I don't know about you, but there's 27 words in the Constitution, and it's found in the Bill of Rights, and it's found in the Second Amendment. Four of those words are very, very clear: shall not be infringed. It is not the government's job, and it is not the scope of their responsibility to limit firearms or personal protection devices, I like to call them, from anybody. It's not their job. And if that means that we have 5-year-olds walking around with guns, or felons who just got out of a supermax prison with guns, I would rather have dangerous freedom over peaceful slavery, because dangerous freedom is far more safe than tyranny that comes at the hands of giving up our shall not be infringed rights. So as ridiculous as it may sound, I like to stay within the realm of reality, though. There should not be a single gun law. Any gun law violates the Second Amendment because it says shall not be infringed. And if there's a gun law that says you need a 7-day wait, you need a background check, you can't have this gun, you can't have an AR-15, no high-capacity magazines, every one of those on one shade or another is an infringement, and I am just for shall not be infringed.
Right. And listen, and I will go on the record and agree with you, and I do also agree with you that 5-year-olds shouldn't have guns, and we need to, and that, horrible mentally ill people that are going to take away people's children should not have guns. When you say that, and I agree that, our corrupt system shouldn't be making these kinds of laws and determinations, for me it sounds like, then what? Then how do we make, I agree that, with a lot of what you're saying, but then, what's the solution here? How do we
Well,
keep?
well, first of all, do you agree that an anti-gun law is a Gestapo law?
Well, listen, when I agree, when I think of the Gestapo, I think of the Gestapo as,
Just
and I think
violating
mo
rights.
I think most
Let
I
me ask
think
you this.
most people think, when they think of the Gestapo, as people who've helped, have tortured people in interrogations room, hanging them upside down.
How about show
I
me your
I
paper?
I've
How about papers, please? Show me your papers. Is
Right.
that
I guess
Gestapo?
they're akin to, they're known for that as well, as checking people's papers. And I have gone across the country and fought and refused ID in almost every single state in our great country here. But,
And why have you done that? Because you hate tyranny and you love freedom, right?
right, exactly,
So
exactly.
anybody who comes against your freedom and tries to violate your right to be secure in your person has committed that which is exactly what
They're
the
a
Gestapo
tyrant,
did.
they're a tyrant, and I've called them as such to their face many,
So
many
what's the
times.
isn't
So
tyrant
it's
isn't
the difference,
tyrants
Brian.
go
The
ahead.
difference, Brian, is that a tyrant is a tyrant. Gestapos were tyrants, right? So, you have different, as you said, we have levels of tyranny. None should exist in any free country, correct? In any free society. Um, we can agree on that. But when you say Gestapo, it's and I alluded and I said earlier, what is that is going to not, we're trying to change the minds of people, because that's the only way we could ever change anything. We're trying to change the mind of the masses in the United States. That's the only
Mhm.
way, because as a lover of history, the only way real revolution comes about, and I'm sure you can agree with this, the only way real revolution or change, like revolutionary change, comes about is when a country is in peril, right? They're in dire straits. In every revolution, it's because the people didn't have food, they didn't have access to food, they didn't have access to certain things in order to survive, right? Once you take away people's survival instincts kick in, you can make a law about a gun and people aren't really going to do anything, as we've seen in our country, right? You can make a law about, a lot of different things, that ID yourself, right? Stop an ID states, and not people aren't going to revolt. And that's just the facts of life. And history has shown us that people will revolt when they lose their basic need of survival. And that's just plain old history. It's happened in every
Well,
single,
the Declaration of Independence says they won't even revolt then. They will actually suffer the cruelest punishments, quote, while those cruel punishments are sufferable. I mean, I think what we have here is a psyop. Okay, so let's move away from Gestapo. Okay, so obviously that word, just like the word anarchy.
No. Again, I think for me, it's more about changing the minds of the people. And when you're trying to when that word is used, Gestapo, like I've said, I agree. There are Gestapo police here, right? I call them tyrants. They're words. But words are important, and I think that I call them, you're a tyrant. If somebody asks me for my papers, I say you're a tyrant, right?
Well, what if
That's
somebody says, Sean, tyrant? That's just, aren't you going overboard? Don't we need to change the minds of the masses? So there's always going to be nitpicking on terms, but I see Gestapo and tyrant as synonymous. I'm willing to drop the term Gestapo and just go with tyrant or oppressor, just a government oppressor,
yeah,
because
great.
no level. I think you'll agree with this. Like you said at the beginning of this conversation, I think we agree with each other more than we disagree. I am very concerned on what we disagree with. That's why I want to have this conversation. So if there is tyranny, which any infringement, unless you don't believe shall not be. What do you think about the Second Amendment? Do you believe shall not be
I
infringed means what it
I
says?
no, I 100%. I already stated that I agree with you
Okay.
that, but
Okay. I just want
there
to
are
be,
questions. There are questions on, like you said, you don't think 5-year-olds or people that are mentally ill should be carrying weapons as well. But that you didn't touch on a solution, and I can't think of a solution on how do we keep those guns out of those people's hands.
the
But
salute.
let's
I
move on.
did. Yeah. The solution is freedom. The solution is freedom, even if it means it's going to be dangerous. It cannot possibly be any more dangerous than precinct 70, the 75th precinct arresting you while you have the law in their hands saying this is not only not an arrestable offense, but you swore to uphold this and they arrest you anyway.
Right,
Having
right.
let 5-year-olds with guns and felons with guns, if you let everybody else have guns, then those felons will be kept in check, because you're not going to have people
I
breaking into
agree.
houses if 86-year-old Aunt Sadie is strapped. You know what I
I
mean?
agree. I agree.
So
We
so
don't disagree there. I
and it's
agree.
not and it's not going to be perfect, but the solution is always going to be err on the side of freedom, never on tyranny. So
Right.
if no level of tyranny is acceptable, and show me your papers is tyranny, and confiscating weapons is tyranny, and no knock raids is tyranny, and arresting Sean Paul Reyes in 75th precinct when he shouldn't have been arrested is tyranny, then no level of tyranny should be accepted. And if there's an area where there's gun laws that are infringement, I just call them infringement laws because that's what they are. They are anti-gun, anti-freedom infringement laws. If anybody is a part of an organization that says, yeah, we're going to take your weapons and we're going to throw you into jail and you're going to get a felony record and we're going to ruin your life because you got something that the Second Amendment, said, hey, that's a natural right. That's tyranny. So anybody who's a part of that organization is a tyrant, because they're a part of an organization that literally is saying, I will uphold the law to confiscate weapons and jail innocent people who've committed no crime. I got a problem with that.
Right. I think most people, the problem, Brian, is we both have a problem with that. The problem is that the majority of our country does not have a problem with that.
But
And
how are we helping the masses by telling them that Captain Raposa is not a tyrant just because he
no,
speaks
no,
good
no,
words
I'm not.
about the
And I've never said, I never said that he wasn't a
oh
tyrant. I never said
the,
that. I said he wasn't. I said my exact words is it's disingenuous to call people, to call all law enforcement to Gestapo, only in the context, Brian, of trying to change the minds of the people.
so
Right.
you're
We're
saying
trying
it's
to
not a
change
so
the
you're not
minds of the people.
so you're saying it's not an untrue statement, but we need to change our language so that we can be perceived with higher favor and high
Well,
regard
no,
from the general
I think that
masses.
I think the Gestapo, like I said, they did, if you're looking at the facts, 6 million people killed in a decade, torturing people, hanging them upside down in interrogations rooms, branding them with cattle irons, those kinds of things, as much as egregious things that are happening in the United States, hanging people upside down in an interrogation room, branding them, electrocuting them, those things aren't happening, to my knowledge, at least. But I don't think those things are happening in our country. So when you talk about, if you want to talk about, if you want to compare all law enforcement to Gestapo, and you want to just relate it to, oh, well, Gestapo asked for papers, right? But you didn't, that's
All
not
right,
really
then
what the Gestapo is really about,
all
right? They
right,
were about torturing and killing people.
then let's talk about that. Let's talk about a damp walled dungeon where the Gestapo have surrounded one guy and they're flaying his skin. Okay, they're not doing that. But what do you think Tyree Nichols would say about the Memphis Jumpout crew? Would you say while he's getting curb stomped by the 5 Memphis police
Of
officers who
course,
brutally ended his life, would you say that Tyree Nichols saw a difference between the Memphis Jumpout
of
crew
course
and
he didn't.
the okay, so
Of course he didn't. But when
Gestapo,
when you want to bring up specific instances like Tyree Nichols or any other scenario
James
where it's
Boyd, Daniel
warranted,
Shaver,
right?
Karen Garner, Eric
Right.
Garner, yeah.
If you want to bring up those specific incidents, then we can agree. Yes, they acted like the Gestapo. Right. But when you use the words all law enforcement are Gestapo, I don't think that helps serve. I don't think it's true. Just based on the facts, I don't think it's true.
Did the Gestapo ask for papers and for ID
Right.
for
But
no
you're
reason?
taking one aspect of the Gestapo as
But
far
you
as
took but
you're
you
taking
took
one
one
aspect of the
aspect.
Gestapo. I'm
Yeah,
taking
see,
multiple: torture, murder.
well, I just yeah, well,
The
okay.
murder based on somebody's ethnicity and their cultural background. Like that, and like I said, no one's saying that does not happen in the United States. I've seen it. I've covered it. You've covered it. I've dealt with it personally. I don't know your personal thing, but I've dealt with it personally. I've been arrested because of how I looked. I've been arrested because of you know because they hate freedom. I've spent nights in jail because of that. I agree. I would compare those particular officers to Gestapo, and I would have no problem calling them that.
So you don't see the words tyrant and Gestapo as synonymous.
No, because I don't think that I think that a tyrant can be any other. Like a tyrant could be fall under any. A tyrant. Gestapos were tyrants, so I think tyrant. I think Gestapo. When you look at the facts again, I'm just looking at the facts of what Gestapo were, what they were, and what they did.
But
This
did
is.
all Gestapo flay people's skin and behead people?
I'm sure the majority of them f- flayed people's skin, and I couldn't tell you, Brian, if all of them did, but I can tell you.
I've never seen a record of that. But the Gestapo were primarily known for going door to door and making sure the
Well, no, they
proper
were
people were in
primarily
that house.
yeah, they primarily put people on transport to be killed, right?
Well, no, that's not primarily what the Gestapo did. The Gestapo were the German police under Hitler that did various things, just like the Thin Blue Line gang does
Right.
various things.
And
And
I've called
and
the thing I've called when I think an officer when I think I've called the Thin Blue Line gang. There's not something that I haven't. I'm very well aware. I'm just all I'm saying, Brian. My only thing is that we need to change the minds of the people. The people in the comment section right now that are watching this video. Yes, yes, all law enforcement are Gestapo. Okay, now what? Right?
okay,
Now
let
what?
me can I clarify something? Are you of have you ever heard people say ACAB, ACAB, all cops are bad?
Right? Yes, of course. Right.
Do you believe that?
I've seen instances where they're not. So I think the system is bad. I think the overall system, as you alluded to in your intro here to our discussion, I think that it's systematically designed for tyranny from the president all the way down to local law enforcement to your local councilman to our currency. The currency is a huge thing that's people think that our money, oh, we have to pay back our debt. No one knows that the debt, we're not paying back any debt. That's just, it's all like just smoke and mirrors. But I've seen officers that have done things that would not make them bad. I don't know. Again, I don't know any. I don't know what they do on their 9 to 5. But I've seen officers who have gone against other officers. I've seen that happen. Not much, but I've seen it happen. Right. So I've seen it with my own eyes happen where a law enforcement officer will pull another law enforcement officer off. And they should have went the next step and arrested that person, but they didn't. So at the end of the day, nothing's that no one's ever perfect. No one's ever going to be perfect. But when you talk about, and I'm always gonna get heat for this, and I get it. It is what it is. I'm gonna receive heat for it, and if it really affected me, what like the comment section says, I'd stop doing this a long time ago. I'd block a million people. I don't block anybody on my channel. So I love everybody's opinions. I hope everybody respects mine, like I respect yours and I respect Brian's. But when we talk about all cops are bad and oh they should quit, right? What is a good cop? He's not is unemployed. He doesn't have a job anymore. And you thought, oh, I believe another activist, I forgot who it was, said that, oh, if they wrote a ticket in their life, they're a bad cop, right? Because they're enforcing victimless crimes. If they arrested somebody for committing a DUI, they're a bad cop and they're a tyrant because they arrested somebody for a victimless crime. Um, my only thing is that why that you want them to support. I feel like especially people in this community could be a little bit hypocritical at times, because you want law enforcement to not give somebody a ticket and risk their livelihood, their 401k, their pension, their families, their 2 children at home, their wives and everything. But as activists, there are certain videos that you won't cover, Brian. There are certain videos that other activists, including myself, won't cover. There's certain topics that we won't talk about on YouTube because your channel would be terminated. So
Well, that doesn't
it's
mean you don't. No. It doesn't mean you don't talk about them. You can still talk about it, and you can do it in a crafty way, but you don't ever stop the message.
well, you're restricting your own speech, and not, you won't show certain
Well,
videos
no, you're
because
not you're actually, when you're censoring something, you're putting like a censor blur over it, and then you're putting a link here. If you want it, go to BitChute or whatever. You're actually getting the information out. You haven't ceased putting out the information. You've come up with a cunning and wise way to put it out. Whereas and you're not ruining anybody's life in the process. When a law enforcement officer gives a traffic ticket, which, by the way, I don't know what anybody thinks about this, but if you think about it, traffic law trumps constitutional law in the minds of every single law enforcement officer, specifically state troopers, because you lose 100% of your rights while you were detained for a traffic violation, whether it's 5 miles and over the speed limit, not a properly illuminated license tag, and on and on and on. So you've lost your
those
rights.
are the more trivial of traffic laws. I agree.
Well, it's trivial unless it leads to a fishing expedition that leads you being pulled out of the car, possibly tased, handcuffed, and have a felony record on you. But,
Right. No,
but,
no,
but
no. I'm saying this. I'm not saying the encounter is trivial, Brian. I'm saying that the reasons for the encounter are trivial, like the broken taillight, or going 5 miles over the speed limit. But for
well,
example, if you were going 100 miles down a school zone, people don't want to. Again, like you said earlier, you said there has to be rules, but how? Right? How do we enforce somebody? How do we stop somebody from going 100 miles an hour down, and somebody loses the life of their child? If your child or my child is walking across that street and somebody's going 100 miles an hour because there's no speed limit, there's no speed limits, there's no consequences for speeding, and they hit our child, or
yeah,
what
well,
happens?
we can talk about that, but I'd rather clear the room of the smoke right now and deal with what you just said about this guy is trying to put food. This trooper is trying to put food on his table by literally economically terrorizing this lady who could be one paycheck away from being homeless. And you compared that to a YouTuber who's actually putting out the information, the vital information, and he does it in a crafty and wise way, but he's still getting out the information. There's no corollary in that, number one. And number
Well,
two, I can prove that all cops are bad. Do you want me to prove that all cops are bad? And I'm talking about all sheriffs, all police departments. 100% of the time, there is not one good cop. And you say, and I agree, we need to change people's minds. But the only way we can change people's minds is give them the pill of the undiluted truth. We can make it more palatable. Like when I deworm my dog, he hates the pill, so I wrap it in bologna or I wrap it in peanut butter and stick it down their throat. But you can't dilute the pill of the truth. As soon as you do, it ceases to be truth. Truth is
but
extreme, and to make it, and to wait a second. Hold on a second. I don't. Yeah. What?
When you're wrapping it in bacon or putting it in peanut butter, that's diluting it.
No. When I put a blur effect on my screen and say, here's a link to the actual video if you want to see this guy's head spill open or whatever, I've only made it more palatable so that more people can see it, but I haven't changed the essence of the truth. Changing the essence of the truth to me means don't call Gestapo when they're acting like Gestapo and they work for a Gestapo organization. I'm going to give you right now written proof that all sheriffs and all police captains and all police departments and all police officials are bad. This right here is a letter. I don't know if you can. Oh, shoot. You can't see that because of the effect I got. Ah, crap. Here, let me share my screen. Well, just take here. I'll put a link. I'll give Dan a link so he can put it under. What I have in my hand right here is a letter from the head of the National Sheriff's Department. I'm going to read you what he says. He says, this represents on behalf of the nation's 3,086 sheriffs, the National Sheriff's Association therefore asks you, Dan Crenshaw, to vote against HR 1525. You know what HR 1525 is?
No, I do not.
It's a bill that the Texas commissioners or whatever put in play to minimize the damaging effects of civil asset forfeiture. Civil asset forfeiture, if you were to give the masses the pill of the truth and tell them exactly what it is, it's legalized armed robbery at the hands of the Thin Blue Line cult. So this guy, Jim Skinner, who is the National Sheriff's Association head, speaking for every sheriff in the nation is saying, no, Dan Crenshaw, we need to keep legalized armed robbery. We need to be able to take people's life savings in the name of the war on drugs, which it rarely is. So
Right. Well, you
100,
just said that that person was, you read the letter, and I just wanted to clarify he was representing 3,000. I forgot the
86.
exact number, 3,086.
There's only
I'm sure there's
3,144 counties, and not all counties have sheriffs. It's
right, and
virtually
not all law
every.
enforcement are sheriffs, right?
No, I'm just talking about the sheriffs. I'm just talking
Okay,
about the
okay, okay.
sheriffs
I
right
thought
now.
you were talking
Yeah,
about
yeah.
all law enforcement. Okay,
I'm gonna
and
prove all
wait, I
law
want to clear.
enforcement.
Right,
Yeah,
I just want
okay.
to clarify something
Thank
about
you.
civil
Okay.
asset forfeiture.
So if
100% agree. I'm currently investigating. I went to there's a corrupt police chief, a county over from me, who has taken $40 million in the last few years from businesses, from people. $40 million. I knocked on his door myself to ask him questions about it. I've FOIA requested. I'm in court. I've been arrested. He sent goons, Gestapo, right? I'll use the Gestapo here. He sent goons to my house in road. So I have been in this situation with the civil asset forfeiture, and they're trying hard. I honestly thought that they were trying to kill me if I didn't make it home that night. They would have killed me. In this specific scenario, I totally agree. No, broadly, I agree with civil asset forfeiture is armed robbery, and
yeah.
and a lot of people don't talk about that, Brian. Right? A lot of people, not a lot of people are talking about civil asset forfeiture. So I'm glad you brought that up. It's a huge topic, millions and millions of dollars. This one county, 40 million. This one man, he became police commissioner. Patrick Psycho Ryder. His name is Psych. He was nicknamed Psycho by his own men.
Oh God.
Patrick Psycho Ryder seized over $40 million, and right now I'm investigating that, trying to get to the bottom of it, and it's put my life and my family's life in danger. And these are the things that we need to talk about. I agree with you 100%, and these are tyrants 100%. I agree. I just wanted to make sure that we were in agreement there.
Okay. Yeah, we're in agreement. So that gets all the sheriffs out of the way, because not one sheriff, and I'm going to start reaching out to sheriffs, and maybe everybody else can in their counties, but bring them this. And like I said, I'll give Dan the link so you guys can actually print this off. It's only 3 pages, and it's pretty damning against the sheriff's department, how they're begging Dan Crenshaw to make sure that HR 1525 dies in committee. But the second thing I want to go over is the
And
biggest
Dan
police.
Crenshaw is what part of the Republican Party, right? I just want to make sure.
He's just I call him Dan Red Flag Law, I Pat McCain Crenshaw. He hates the Constitution.
That's a very unique name. Okay. Just wanted
But
to make sure.
the
Because so
second
many
thing I
people
want.
get. I just want to. I only say that if he's Republican only because when we talk about indoctrination in this country, as you know, we're separated by right or left, right? That's how people. That's how most people view their life. They're supporting Donald Trump, but then,
Yep.
oh, Donald Trump's fighting for our freedoms, but they don't really pay. They just ignore the fact that he wants to indemnify
Right.
all law enforcement.
Amen.
And I'm sure there's people out there that I'm sure, because as you know, probably a lot of our viewers are support Donald Trump. But at the end of the day, what's wrong is wrong. You got to speak. The truth is the truth. When the man wants to indemnify he said it himself, indemnify, meaning that he wants all law enforcement officers to be immune from any sort of consequences for their actions. That
Extra
that
extra
is that
yeah,
is
extra
scary.
immune. Extra
Right.
immune.
They already qualified him. They already have qualified immunity. Now he wants to give them total and complete immunity.
Federal
So when you
immunity. Yeah.
go, yeah, he wants to give them complete and total federal immunity, and he said he would do as much. And that is, if you're listening and you're watching this, that is the beginning of true tyranny, if that was allowed to happen. So
Well, for
once you take away
anybody.
all types of consequences away, and again, I'm not excusing, again, I think that Democrat, Republican, I think that's all used to just divide the country, right?
Yeah, it is. I totally
It's
agree.
all a game. It's all a game of smoke and mirrors. Like, oh, I support Joe Biden, I support
Yeah.
Donald Trump. No
Yeah.
one, Joe Biden doesn't care about you. Donald Trump doesn't care about you. None of the politicians on the left care about you. None of them on the right care about you. They're there to make money. Why do you think they become millionaires in Congress? If they cared about the people, they'd be doing things. They wouldn't become millionaires. They're doing it for profit and the power and the illusion of power that they have.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said about Donald Trump. And anybody in the audience who's for Donald Trump or Joe Biden, you've got to take the smelling salts of reality. Let me just give you three things about Donald Trump. I don't know, Mike. I like take the guns first, due process second. So he wants to take away guns. He initiated the red flag laws. He calls himself the father of the VA double X. I'm not going to say the V word here because this is Dan's channel and I don't want to ruin anything. But and then, like you said, blanket federal immunity for all law enforcement officers. Rah, rah, thin blue line. Okay, so we've established that all sheriffs buy onto Sheriff Jim Skinner's National Sheriff's Association civil asset forfeiture nonsense. Now, the biggest police force on the planet, not just in America, on the planet, is in your neck of the woods, Sean. It's the New York City Police Department. Back in the 1970s, they conducted the Knapp Commission to investigate widespread out of control corruption in the New York City Police Department. And then in 1994, they commissioned the Mullen Commission, which is called the City of New York Commission to investigate allegations of police corruption. And I'm not going to bore anybody, but I will read the last four sentences of the final conclusion. Quote, today's corruption, and that's in the New York City Police Department in 1994, is not the corruption of the Knapp Commission days from the 1970s. Corruption then was largely a corruption of accommodation of criminals and police officers giving and taking bribes, buying and selling protections, and that would be bad enough. Corruption was, in its essence, consensual. Today's corruption is characterized by brutality, theft, abuse of authority, and active police criminality. That was happening 30 years ago, and it hasn't gotten any better. As you can see, you went to jail holding the frickin' law that they were supposed to abide by in your hand. That one, I reviewed your video today, Sean, and one of those cops grabbed it and looked at it and still put his hands on you and threw you into a cage anyway.
Right. And right now, actually, tomorrow I have, just a quick update. We're talking about that. Tomorrow I have oral arguments in the Second Circuit. You know, I agree. We can both agree the system is broken. The system of itself is broken. My whole point in our discussion in the comment section was that there's got to be another way, and other than just calling all cops Gestapo, right? I mean, I totally.
But what if it's true? But what if it's
It, it,
true?
if it's true, it's true. Again, it's not true that they killed millions of people. It's not true that there are certain aspects of it that aren't true. Let's just and those and I think what it does is it hypes up everybody that says, okay, yeah, all cops are just got Gestapo. All cops, you know, f the police. I'm gonna curtail my language for Dan's channel as well, but f the police. Abolish the police and all these different things. That's fine. But again, I think that doesn't serve for the grand purpose of what we're trying to accomplish, which we both agree is freedom. When you have one side talking about abolish the police, and you have the other side saying let's back the blue, and it's deep throating the whole boot, right? So you have two sides in our country. Our country's split. You and I, Brian, and probably most of the people in this chat, we're part of. Despite all the views that we've gotten, we are the minority in this country. There's one side that says, abolish all police officers. We don't need police, and and there's another side that says, oh, let's support the police. Let's make them immune from everything, and they're our heroes. And I think that we just need to, and I'm not trying to, I agree with you with a lot that you say, Brian. I really do. And I've told you that in the comment section. I told you that in the comments of your video. And that's why I wanted to have this discussion with you. Because I just don't think that it's my personal opinion that comparing to all cops to Gestapo is going to serve a benefit in any way. It's not going to wake anybody up. It's not going to do any of that. It's not going to do any of that. It's going to just fuel the fire for the people who already, you know, who know that to be true. If they know that to be true, if they're talking about presenting ID and things of that nature, but or if it, but it's gonna people are gonna say, well, they're not killing millions of people, right? They're not hanging people upside
Well,
down. They're not
what
brandishing people with
what
firearms or
what
with
do you what do you propose we call all the sheriffs who want civil asset forfeiture? And what do you propose we call all and
corrupt tyrants. I think that corruption, again, I think words matter. I think we have freedom of speech in this country, and I believe everybody. I never knock anyone, and I've taken heat for this too. And again, it is what it is. You're never going to be perfect. You had mentioned that you had made a video like, is this a cult or whatever? I would argue that some of other channels are more of a cult like than mine. People that are like sound like infomercials, just pitching products to people all day long. But it's not about, and I've taken heat for this, where I say, your right to curse at the police, tell them to F off, give the
Mhm.
middle finger to every cop in the world. Do that. I support it. I fight for that every single day. Not that specifically, because I don't do it myself, but I just think that it doesn't serve as, it's not productive
How
in a
effective
way.
is it?
I question its effectiveness.
Right, right.
That's
Yeah. No,
really what
no,
it
I'm
comes down to.
saying, you're saying how effective is that?
Right,
Because,
and I'm trying to get results, right? Like I just beat the NY. Like right
well,
now, I'm going to court, and I took the NY. I got arrested, spent 12 hours in NYPD lockup, one of the dirtiest places I've ever been. Lost my freedom, had to be around, you know, the worst of the worst people, and I'm talking about the cops, antagonizing me, just. I don't like to complain. I don't even really talk about this, but it's obviously everybody can imagine what it's like having your freedom taken away from you,
yeah.
and if you can't imagine it, just imagine the worst. There's nothing worse on the face of this earth than people taking your freedom from you. Tyrants and corrupt tyrants taking your freedom from you. Nothing worse. There's nothing worse. When you lose your freedom to just move, just to like, I can't get out of this cage that I'm in, that is literally the worst thing that can happen to you. It's happened to me 9 times since I've started. And I've taken it to court every time, not one criminal conviction in any of those cases. But the point is that I I try and take it to the court. I try and do whatever I can. Took it to federal court. I won in federal court. They granted my injunction about the law, and they appealed it. Right. So now we're going to the Second Circuit, and I doubt it's going to go to the Supreme Court. But we're in the Second Circuit right now, and I got to go do oral arguments tomorrow in the federal court.
Okay.
I'm
Hey,
trying to be
hey,
effective.
I want you to know I agree with something you just said, because
Go ahead.
I'm willing to drop the terminology that might cause a stumbling block. And I think we should probably all do a little bit of introspection and take to heart what you just said, because I really do believe that, you can, I use this analogy a lot, but I mean, I'm simpleton. Okay. So I got to stay with what works. No, but
No, you're very
I
educated.
can remove a fly from the forehead of my friend by swatting it away with a piece of paper. Getting rid of the wasp or the hornet or whatever is jeopardizing my friend. I can do it with a piece of paper and not leave lasting damage on my friend's forehead. Or I can use a hammer. I'll remove the wasp, but my friend might die. So I agree with. Our unfortunate reality is that perception is everything, and most people are lemmings who have other people do their thinking for them. So if they see
Right.
some dude like me calling my local police department, you're just nothing but the
Right.
Nazi Gestapo, I can see how that would turn somebody off. Whereas if I use different terminology without compromising on the truth, then I could bring more people into our group, which is what we need.
Right.
So
And not only that, you made a great analogy right there, because not only that, you have some, for example, again, anybody that fights for freedom, you're all right in my book. When I think you're trying to, scam or manipulate people and use your platform for your own personal gain, and that's your only motive, because obviously, just like anything, we all make money. We all have bills to pay, and we all have to make a living here. But I think your analogy works out perfectly and it reminded me of something, is that when you have activists that are at a traffic stop, right? We can agree, Brian, shouldn't happen. But when you're at a traffic stop and the officer tells you, stay in the car, and you get out of the car, right? And this activist gets out of the car and they start provoking the police and saying, using their First Amendment right to curse at the police and saying all these things. We are role models to people, right? We have a following of hundreds of thousands of people, right? Your channel is huge. My channel, between both of us, we're almost at 1 million, right? Close to 1 million people that are subscribed to our channels, and that's not counting every other activist. So tens of millions of people that are watching all of us at all times. Now you conduct yourself in that way, they're going to think that we have the cover of having a large platform, right? We can post a video and people will start calling, and maybe the charges will get dropped, probably not, but we make some money on YouTube so we can hire lawyers. And when you're engaging in that kind of behavior, constitutional, you're right, all of that. Now the next person, my main goal is to keep people from being harmed and from their freedom being taken from them. That is my 100% end all goal, is to as less so to get as less people arrested and their freedom or getting killed as possible by tyrant law enforcement. So if you're doing that, and then the next person, they get out of their car and they say, you know what, fuck you, you can't, I'm a grown man. I could stay I don't have to get out of the car. Don't tell me what to do. And now the next person goes out and does that and they get shot. Is that, what did you, by you doing that, it only served to help, these tyrants kill a man
Mhm.
and get away with it like they always do. There's not going to be any consequences for these people. So, there rarely ever is. And that's the sad part. That's why I always talk about accountability. Because if, they always want to say, oh, prison and being arrested as a deterrent to stop you from doing, there's no deterrent for law enforcement. That's why they continue to do what they do, is because, yeah, I'm taking them to federal court. Yeah, I got the rule changed. Yeah, we're going to Second Circuit. But the cops that did it, that acted like the thugs that they are, and threw me out of the precinct, there's no consequences for them. As hard as I try for there to be, there's none. I had my ankle sprained by Louisiana cops. I went to every law enforcement agency in that state, documented the whole process, went to everyone. Hey, listen, I have video of these officers throw me downstairs and I was physically injured. I want you to charge them. Wouldn't happen. Wouldn't happen. So my main thing is to protect people's bodies, their lives, and to protect people's freedoms, is to just not engage in that sort of behavior, because it's, even though you're constitutionally protected and you have the right to do it, it you want to get home at the end of the day to your children. You want to get home to your family at the end of the day.
Yeah, there's a time for everything in a season for every activity under the sun, and everything that you and I are saying has nuance. What might work for you might not work for me. Somebody may have a better command over the English language and they can talk to that cop in that way. But if
Right.
I try that, I'm going to get my head slammed against the curb. So
Right.
I totally get that. And I want to be clear. These people, the people who cuss at cops, more power to you, go for it. But, I think that we need to take into consideration that people do emulate that kind of stuff, whether you want to believe it or not. And it might not go so well for them as it went for you. So I get that. Yeah.
Okay, great. I think it's important for people to, people are going to watch this, and I think it's important for them to know that, listen, you have the right. I support that right. Brian supports that right. You want to call them fucking pigs. You want to do this and that. Fine, but your life is more important to your family. Your life is more important to me, because nothing's going to happen. It's not changing anything. It's not
Yeah.
going to change anything.
And there's a major caveat to that, because you can comply and do everything the cop said, and it still can end with your life extinguished.
Of
Daniel
course.
Shaver is a perfect example of that. This poor guy was scared to death. Philip Brailsford and those guys were giving him rapid fire commands. He adjusted his shorts and boom, he's gone. On the other hand, somebody can, cuss out a cop, and we know how fragile the egos of cops are. So it's probably not a wise thing to damage the ego of somebody who's already tripping over their own power. And by the way, he's got a gun and he's willing to use it. So you gotta really pick your battles wisely in this kind of stuff. Let me take one more second to say something, Sean, because I am so saddened every day when I think about the vitriol in the comment section. I hate Sean. I hate Brian. I like Brian more than Sean, or just any of the other auditors out there. Look, we all have our own gifts. We have our own specialties. We have our own way of going at it. Now, if one of us steps across the line and goes against freedom and goes on the side of tyranny, then we deserve to get called out. Do it. Use your discretion on how you do that. But I think it would really behoove us to, as long as the act that the auditor engaged in wasn't unconstitutional and a violation of freedom and pro tyranny or whatever, maybe we should all give each other another chance, so that we can strengthen our community. Because us being splintered now, I'm a firm believer in unity, but the unity has to be based on the truth. It has to be based on morality, and it has to be based on what's right, because an injustice that happens to one man anywhere happens to all men everywhere. When Sean got arrested at the 75th precinct with a freaking law in his hand, and they violated that law to throw him into a cage, that didn't just happen to Sean Paul Reyes from Long Island Audit. That happened to every single one of us. And we should all start taking that kind of stuff personally. When NC Tyrant Hunter gets violated and they put the cuffs on him so tight it cuts off his circulation, or when San Joaquin Valley Transparency gets arrested and they put him in this cold cell for 24 hours and don't give him food for water, that's happening to all of us. So, we all have personalities. We all have egos. Maybe we should just step back for a second and go, you know what? I'm willing to let bygones be bygones. Let's have a clean slate, and let's build this community the way it should be built. What do you say about that?
I agree. I agree. I think that, less when I agree with you, because at the end of the day, we're all trying to fight for the same thing. We're all trying to affect change, and we all have our different ways about going about it, and that's fine. I've never once condemned anybody for their behavior in any sort of audit situation or activism. Never once. They are entitled. I would be a hypocrite if I ever judged anybody for their behavior. I can have my opinion that it's not effective, and I think that's what really upsets some people, is that when I say that, listen, I don't think that behavior or handling it that way is effective. We all can't just be drones, right? Like you made, like you said about the cult, right? We don't want to be a cult here. We everybody's going to have their own opinion, and my opinion is that's not an effective way to create any sort of change or to change the minds of the masses in our country. So I 100% agree with you. We see the comment section all the time. It's always full of people saying, you know, I haven't read the chat this entire time, but I'm sure there's people saying against me. There's people against you. There's people against both of us. There's people for other people that aren't even having this discussion with us right now. It's just, and unfortunately, that's life, right? That's our society. That
Yeah,
is,
that's
it's a
gonna.
micro,
Yeah.
it's a microcosm of the comment section is a microcosm of our society, and it
Hmm.
truly saddens me as well when I see those kinds of comments, and I'm like, you know, are we ever really going to, affect change here? If we're too busy fighting each other, how are we ever going to come together and fight the true tyrants and the true corrupt system? Like I said, you made so many good points in your intro about the fiat currency and the government and how it's they're bought and paid for and everything else. Like those are great points, and I think those are points that everybody should get behind. But when people there's certain people, and another thing is that there are certain things, just one little thing here, is that there are certain people in the activism community, in our community, that I don't agree with, not because of how they handle themselves or what they say or their freedom of speech or how they exercise their rights. It's more about how I think that they might be trying to scam somebody, and I can't get behind that no matter what. No matter if your goal is the same, if you're trying to take advantage of people, I can't get behind that whatsoever. And I've never wanted that to be a part of my platform, or it's never. I don't. I've recently partnered with Attorney Shield, and I'm not trying to talk about that, right? I'm not trying to sell anything, but I'm just saying, like, I've done that after 3 years of not doing any sponsorships or doing anything of that, and I only did it. I only became part of this company because I really think it could help save people's lives. I really think that it could help de-escalate situations and save people's lives. Is it going to change people like, oh, it's not going to change anything. Is it going to change law enforcement? Of course it's not going to change law enforcement. Of course it's not. It but it could help somebody get home at the end of the night. It could help change the mentality that, what, most law enforcement officers now have body cameras. But as we know, Brian, they can manipulate that. They don't want to release it. When you have footage, what's the one thing that, everybody in our community always says? Always film the police in
Yeah.
any given circumstance. Always film the police. I don't care if he's super nice to you, or always film the police. But again, that's another problem that I think that the app Attorney Shield could solve, is that you can't turn off the phone without a pin, things of that nature. That is something that I truly believe in and that I can get behind to try and save people's lives. I'm not trying to do anything. I'm not trying to sell you something that's not gonna help you at all. I think it really would, and that's why I can get behind it. And I don't knock anybody for taking any I want to make it clear. I don't. I'm sure there's a lot of people that take sponsorships and do things of that nature. I don't knock anybody for doing that.
I'm glad you.
So
I'm glad you
yeah.
clarified that because it kind of sounded like you were.
No, 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 no. I just want to know. I wanted to be clear. I'm just saying that
Yeah.
I just saying that I haven't taken one in 3 years, not one in 3 years. And with a channel of my size, I could have taken it. I could take a sponsorship, selling you flashlights and doing all
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
different things, and whatever else people have offered me to do, and get $5,000 a video. And I just wanted to make it clear that I didn't do that because I wanted it to be genuine and come and serve some utility to for what I'm fighting for.
Yeah, not that
But
it's not
no
genuine
knock.
if not that it's not
No.
genuine if somebody does take a sponsorship. But
No, but
let
no, 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 not at all,
let,
not at all.
let me just say, because I've heard people knock Attorney Shield, and I've heard people knock other people who do sponsorships. I don't think that's what we should be arguing about. And to claim that another YouTuber or auditor is scamming people, man, that is such a subjective judgment that I think if we stay out of that arena and just talk about things that are more concrete, I do, Sean, I don't have, I mean, our country and the police forces and the sheriff's department and the political injustice system is so freaking corrupt. It seems like an insurmountable obstacle to come up with a solution. I think we can. I think it's going to take way more numbers than we have. They only successfully pulled off the American Revolution with a third of the population of the colonists.
Right. Not a lot of people know that. Right.
Yeah, but there's something that I had a question of, and this live stream kind of confused me a little bit more than I was at the beginning of the live stream. But remember when Leroy Truth had the live stream and we were kind of talking back and forth in the chat room, and you said in regard to Captain George Rapazzo, you said about him, he's enforcing, I'm going to quote you, okay? You said he's enforcing the law that was passed by elected officials. If you don't like the law, you don't hate the police officer, you take it up with the legislature and you hold them accountable. Can you expand on that a little bit?
So the point I was trying to make there is that we got to look for solutions. Like we talk about, and that was in the context of you calling him a Gestapo, right? So when by me saying that, what it was me trying to say, let's do something. Okay, right. Cops are pigs. ACAB, Gestapo, all that. Great, fantastic. And you see it in the comment section. That's what really frustrated me in the moment. As they're like ACAB, yeah, all cops are Gestapo, and it's just like, why don't we just try something a little bit different, right? Why don't we try to hold the people that make these unconstitutional, tyrannical laws accountable? Because it seems to me that they just slip through and nobody really, I'm not saying you don't, Brian, clarifying. I'm not saying that you don't. I'm just saying that in general, the hatred is towards law enforcement. And I get it. I get it 100%. And if they didn't enforce the laws, what would happen? I get that whole argument if they didn't enforce these unconstitutional laws. But I'm just saying that let's try. How many people? It saddens me that this whole thing is everybody's bought and paid for. I get it, but why don't more people that can't be bought and paid for try and do it, right? If somebody, why don't we need people to get involved in? It's just a solution, right? It's my attempt at any sort of solution to this tyrannical problem in our country is to have patriots get up there and try and change the country, and try and people who really love freedom, people who really want to do right by the people. And I get it, people are like, oh, your vote doesn't matter, your vote doesn't count. But again, what does that solve, right? Your vote doesn't count. First of all, no one votes anyway, right? The statistics on people voting is abysmal. Nobody votes. Barely people vote in the presidential election. That's the most people vote. But nobody really even votes in their. There'll be a county of millions of people, and 10,000 people will vote, or 20,000 people will vote. And I get that you're like, oh, our votes don't count. So what now? What now? Like, I don't want to become I don't want to become I don't want to become a community of just complaining without any sort of real solutions or real. I'm all about exposing tyrants. I've done it for 3 years now.
Well, I have the answer.
For many years.
I have the answer to that. I have the answer to that. Okay, so what confused me about your statement about hey, he was just enforcing a law that was passed by the elected officials, and then you said if you don't like the law, you don't hate the police officer, you take it up with the legislator. But how is taking up with the legislature a solution when you had the law in your hand at the 75th precinct and the cops did not care? You actually had, if I'm not mistaken, you had the New York State and New York City law saying that you could record in that lobby of the 75th precinct. Am I right about that?
You are right. Yep. 100%.
Yeah. So those two laws from the New York City and New York State. Okay, wait, just my point is the New York City, New York State law corresponded with the right to freedom of press from the First Amendment. So all those three laws of the land aligned, and yet the enforcers who should have been protecting your rights actually took 100% of your freedom. So if the answer is to go to the legislator to change the laws, and the three correct laws, which amend themselves at the same time, were just trashed by the law enforcers, how is going to the legislature to change the laws the solution to the problem?
Yeah, good example. Great point. in that specific scenario, I did have the laws in my hand. I did go to the 7th precinct, 75th precinct, and I knew based on the tyrannical and corrupt past of the NYPD, they are the largest gang in the country. Um, I knew that they were going to arrest me. I knew I was going to have to spend, 12 hours. I didn't think it was going to be 12. I thought I'd get a desk appearance ticket, but they wrote those tyrant officers wrote they asked the court for order of protections against me, the tyrants who arrested me and threw me into a cage, asked for orders of protection against me, so that way I wouldn't be eligible for a desk appearance ticket and I'd have to go and sit in, central booking even longer. So then the legislator in New York City and New York State passed a law that said you have to enshrine the First Amendment right to film police officers. I tried to show them the law. I exposed them for their tyrannical behavior to hundreds of thousands of people. Then I could just be in a comment section and say, well, I could just make a video and say, well, look at them. This is my whole point, Brian. I could say those tyrants, those pigs, they took my freedom, this and that. The legislator passed a law and they won't even listen to the law. And they're tyrants, tyrants, tyrants. Having a good night, everybody. Take it easy, right? I could have just done that, right? Did the video, exposed the tyrants for what they were, but I took it to the next level, right? I'm trying a different solution, which is why now tomorrow I will be in the Second Circuit Court of Appeals fighting to get the judge to. They've actually taken down the signs, and when the injunction was granted, that's changed, right, Brian? So like when I went to the with the first when I went to the district court and federal court, they were able to tell the NYPD to take down their signs. Unfortunately, they appealed because that's how tyrannical the city of New York, the NYPD is. They very, they want to protect this policy of theirs to their last dying breath. So the judge said, take down all the signs immediately. They started taking down the signs. Some activists went in there and filmed, but then they appealed and the injunction was stayed. And now I'm in the Second Circuit doing oral arguments. So I say that because there's a process. Other than, again, there's everybody has their own solutions, right? I'm just doing what I can do in order to try and affect change and to control the tyrannical police department. So yes, the legislator, you're right. Now there's the judiciary, right? Now you take it up to the judicial courts. And and again, I just think it's so unproductive because I know there's going to be people in the comment section saying, well, the courts are bought and paid for. They're okay, but I'm trying here. I'm trying. I'm literally doing the best I can do with what I got in order to change some sort of policies. I've had the mayor in Berwyn, Illinois, rip down the sign that he had, the unconstitutional sign that he had. I think that filming government employees and public servants and law enforcement is one of the most important things that anyone can do when they're interacting with their government. It's to promote transparency and to hold them accountable. And that's what I'm really fighting for. And like I said, yes, in that specific in that specific incident, they went against the legislator. But
No,
that's why
here's
I'm like, you know what? Why don't we get all legislators to pass, again, an idea? And people can criticize me for my ideas and solutions. That's fine. You're entitled to that. But, I think I don't think it's very effective for our general movement to say, well, why are you going through all this process for? They're all corrupt. And it's like, that's such a defeatist attitude that you're like, that's all corrupt. I've made changes in certain municipalities. I changed, the NYPD for a couple days until they appealed it. And hopefully we'll change them permanently in court. And that's my whole point, Brian, is that let's stop complaining and just calling, law enforcement Gestapo and tyrants and all these other things and just repeating that over and over and over and over and over again. And
yeah,
let's start doing something about it.
and I wasn't even trying to hold. I'm not even actually trying to hold your feet to the fire. I truly am trying to understand, how things could change if when you had the right law that, amen, the Constitution was the supreme law of the land, and they ignored it, the message they conveyed is so in our faces. And I think the answer is more simple and less complex than we all think. One of my favorite quotes from one of the founding fathers is, it's not the majority who will prevail, but the irate and tireless minority who are keen on setting brush fires of freedom in the minds of men. Realizing that law enforcement is, all these, we call them costume clowns, we call them pigs, we call them tyrants, we call them Gestapo or whatever. At the end of the day, they're human beings with families just like us, like you noted at the top of this discussion. So I would appeal to the Captain George Raposos who might be watching this right now, or any law enforcement or ex-law enforcement agent. Hey, I'm a fellow human being with you. I want freedom for my family just like you want freedom for yours. But you got to realize, and I'm talking to the law enforcers right here, when you take away my freedom, you're literally jeopardizing your own children's freedom and your freedom. When a Sean Paul Reyes or a David from San Joaquin Valley Transparency or a Chile DeCastro from Delete Laws, I really think that we're all trying to fight for freedom. But what people have to realize is at the end of the day, we're all human beings. And if I could appeal to the humanity of anybody who's wearing a uniform and calling themselves a police department officer or a sheriff or a deputy, you got to understand, if you don't fight for your freedoms today, and I'm talking about the Raposos of the world, then you're going to lose them tomorrow. You will. Now, you may load us up to the boxcars, but the next day you're next and you're expendable. The only way we can make ourselves priceless and valuable in the eyes of everybody individually is if each and every one of us bellies up to the bar and realizes how important individual rights are. If you don't have freedom, you don't have life. And if you don't have life, you ain't got nothing. So the reason I asked you this is because if those cops at the 75th precinct violated a law that was actually right and they could have upheld it, then they can also disregard unjust laws. So I don't think the answer is going to our legislators and the politicians so much as it is to go to the law enforcers, appeal to their humanity. Now, this might fall on its face and not work, but I would sure like it if they could exercise that officer discretion and maybe come to our aid when the IRS or whoever comes knocking at our door. You know what I mean?
I 100% agree, but 100% agree with everything you just said. I would just say that we have to accept reality, right? So if Captain Raposo or anybody else, does it's not this is not really not even about him. This is in general, right? All law enforcement. If any one of those that you just appeal to, which I agree, I appeal to all of them as well to do that. Use the discretion not to violate our rights and to uphold the oath to the United States Constitution. Like I said, I do it every day. I try and do this every day. Try and change the minds of people. Try and change the
Yeah.
minds of law enforcement. We both work very hard at what we're doing. A lot of activists do. You know, I would just say that in reality, the reason why I brought up the economic thing of it is not to excuse it. And this comment was not to excuse anything. That's why I didn't say like he's absolved from it in any way. Like again,
That's how I
it's
took it, by the way.
it's yeah. It's not it's not that I'm absolving anybody of anything. It's that I'm trying to live in the world that we live in. I'm trying to realistically, what would happen if I went into the precinct and those officers said, well, he has the law in his hands, we're not going to arrest him. It's such a sad thing that they can, do a million egregious things that we see every single day on your channel, on my channel, on other channels, that they could do such egregious things and get away with it, right? Well, what do we talk about all the time? We've investigated ourselves and found no wrongdoing. But the reality is, Brian, is that if they wouldn't have enforced the NYPD's policy in that situation, they would have been fired. That's the reality. That's the reality. So we can either talk about, all law enforcement are just going to go against all law enforcement and just retire, and I mean everybody's going to get fired, and that's why it's got to be changing the minds of everyone. It's changing the minds and awakening the minds of everybody in our country, as much people as we can in our country, to the truth, and to fight for our freedoms, because we all know what's going to happen if one officer goes against the thin blue line gang. They're going to be ostracized. That's what I'm saying. Another route, I mentioned it in this comment section in the same thing when I was talking to you, unions, right? Not too many people talk about police unions. That is a huge thing. That is something that legislators can put a law that says, no more police unions, right? Or curtail the power of the police unions. Police chiefs, people don't understand. Police chiefs have very limited power when it comes to when there's a union involved, right? They curtail to the union. They bow to the unions, especially here on in I know not so much in Texas, but in that area, but in the Northeast, it's like the mob. The union is like the mob. It's they're elected. The politics is very prevalent here, and it's very, I know it's prevalent everywhere, but in the Northeast here and in the Chicago area, unions are a big deal, and they have immense power to protect these tyrants. And then also they won't protect the people who stand up for our rights. So again, what happens when that law enforcement officer loses his job? Okay, he did the right thing. He lost his job. He's no longer a law enforcement officer anymore. And now another tyrant that got picked on in high school replaces him, a complete and utter tyrant. Like we said, there's levels to tyranny, right? So yeah, he might be willing to arrest you for, filming inside of a precinct, and the guy replacing him might break your arm and break your jaw, what they did to the poor woman, which is why I started my activism inside the NYPD. That they broke her arm. A 65-year-old grandmother broke her arm for filming her encounter with police departments, the NYPD, in the lobby, right? So that, there, it's hard for me to say that, oh, let's they want to do. We have to live in reality. That's all I'm saying. We have to live in reality that they're going to, if one person, we need to change the minds of everyone, because one person in a police department, or even two, three law enforcement in the police department, I've seen what happens firsthand when a police officer supports me. They'll tell me, hey, listen, I supported you. I said what's up to you on your video, and now all the officers hate me. They ostracize me. You know, they
Yeah,
said
but
to watch my own back.
doesn't that testify to you to the grave evil and corruption that's going on with police departments? It's almost
Right.
like
Well,
they won't
in
come
general,
they won't come to the knowledge of the truth because their paycheck depends on them not coming to the knowledge of the truth, and their life is going to be way easier if they just continue on the tyranny train.
well, no, it's not about that. It's about changing, and it's about changing all minds, not just law enforcement, because
No, no,
in powers and
I'm
number, powers, when we the people come together, and we can come together and say, listen, at the end of the day, we're the cash cows for the government, right?
of course. Yep.
Biden can make an egregious statement like, "What do you need your guns for? We got F-16s," right? Such an egregious statement,
Mhm.
such a tyrannical statement made by that man, and he could say that. It's so disingenuous though, and it's not reality, because he's saying that to try and to psych you out, because yes, we do have the power. They just don't want you to know that we have the power. They want you to think that they have F-16s, but they're not going to drop atomic bombs and hit us with F-16s. Why? Because then who's going to fund them? Who is going to give them all the money that they have? No one.
Let me backfill something I just said about cops, because I kick myself almost every day for walking around with Pollyanna glasses and thinking the best of everybody and hoping that I can appeal to the humanity of people who wear uh, badges and guns and think they can violate our rights and they can go to bed and sleep well at night. But I mean, if we learned one thing from Texas, it was Uvalde, and 376 cops from 5 different law enforcement agencies showed up, and not one of them did the right thing. As a matter of fact, they did the exact wrong thing, and they kept parents from going in to save their kids. So when I hear people say, well, there are some good cops, granted, cops do some good things, but for the most part, they will leave that good thing that they just did, whether saving, I'm getting a lot of reverb, like somebody's moving their microphone around or something. But they'll save a kid from a frozen lake bed one day, or get a cat out of a tree, or help an old lady across the street, and then then they take you down and shake you down through civil asset forfeiture. So
I
uh,
agree.
I I I want a better world, and I want to come up with solutions that are effective in achieving that goal. And I think you want the same thing, and I hope everybody watching is wanting the same
Right.
thing too.
And I hope so as well. I think that, people, that's why I think we need to come together, and and realize that we have to be effective in our tactics, as well as, emotional. We can be emotional, and and a lot of people are, but we have to be effective as well. And I don't think that, you said that, Uvalde, a total disaster. And that is, and I'm glad I get to speak about this. The same person who investigated that department and found them of no wrongdoing, an independent, quote unquote, independent investigator, he's the same exact independent investigator who investigated a corrupt police chief that whistleblowers came on my channel to a whistleblower law enforcement officer came on my channel, was throwing Adderall parties, tasing his officers, doing all types of corrupt and tyrannical things. He's the same. So this guy, now that I know this, I'm going to be heading back to Texas. This is their guy that they hire in order to come to the conclusion that they want them to protect the people, to protect the law enforcement officers. Uvalde is disgusting when you see them holding back parents from trying to
Hmm.
save their children.
Yep.
Absolutely disgusting behavior. And it needs to be called out, it needs to be highlighted. And that's why channels like yours and mine and Dan's, all of our channels are so important, because it's opening the eyes to people all across this country. Wake up. Law enforcement doesn't care about you. The system, again, the system. We could talk about individuals all day long, but the system itself is broken, from law enforcement to our government. All of it is broken and designed, from our schools. You know, a lot of people don't talk about schools, right? What did you learn in school that really helped you out to succeed in life? Absolutely nothing. It's designed that way. Our public school system is designed in order to make you a worker. That's how it was originally designed, to make you clock in at 9 o'clock, leave at 5 o'clock. It's all designed that way in order to make you a worker. It doesn't teach you about credit. They don't teach you about stocks and investing money and for your future, or any of that, or business loans. That we're so quick, this country is so quick to give out billions and billions, if not trillions of dollars in student loan debt to irresponsible teenagers, but they won't give a teenager a business loan to go start his own small business. There's a lot of different facets to this broken system that we live in. And my whole point is that we need to come together and change the minds and wake people up to the system is corrupt. Yes, law enforcement is corrupt, but the system enables them to be corrupt.
All right, guys, I'm gonna jump in here real quick. I got somebody in the basement who I want to add to the
Dan,
conversation real quick.
like I told you, Dan, just really quick, Dan, I told you I couldn't stay that long. I got a million things going on at the house. That's why I'm not even
No, I
on
got
camera
it.
right
You
now.
guys have been on for an hour and 25, so I want to
No,
interrupt a
but
little
I
bit.
just wanted to
And,
say really quickly to Brian. Brian, you know, never anything personal. I never thought that any videos you ever covered of mine was anything personal. I truly believe that you are sincere in all of your beliefs. I just think that there's sometimes, people feed wrong information, old information as it was in the past, and things of that nature, in order to divide us because of their own personal egos and vendettas and things of that nature. And I'm not perfect. I have an ego. We all have egos. But this conversation with you, really helped open my eyes to, how sincere you are. I've always thought you were very sincere in what you talk about, and you truly believe in everything that you say. And I just want you to know there's no bad feelings between us whatsoever, never was. And I appreciate everything that you do for this community, for we the people, for the people out there. I really do.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, let's change the world. Let's use our platforms to make this world a better place. That's all I
Amen.
want.
Let's
I just
do it.
I want to bring in somebody here who was former law enforcement and now turned activism, James Madison Audit, to give an opinion on some of the stuff that was spoke about too. James, you're alive. I don't know if he knows he's on. You there?
Oh, I know. I hear that. I guess I got to turn on my audio, turn this down. You got to be all kind of stuff. I'm sorry, Long Island. I'm gonna beat you up a little bit before I get started. The system's not broken. The system is working is exactly as intended. They want it to work like this.
Broken from our perspective, James.
Yeah, of course. I joke about that. I knew I was going to bring that up and be able to say something like that because but yeah, there's a lot of stuff that goes on. I'm a former law enforcement officer, many people know, and now I'm bucking the system, bucking my friends, which they were just shift friends. That's pretty much what it is. Right now, I've got 3 former law enforcement officers that are out doing videos with me. There's one specifically that's doing it's great. It's amazing. But the trouble that we run into, and I've got to get my mic set up here. I've had all this time to do it. The trouble that we run into is, like I say, the system's not broken. It's working as intended. And that is based off of the commissioners and the council making stupid laws that the law enforcement have to enforce, that if they don't enforce it, like we talked about, they're going to lose their job. And it's not the legislators that are listening to the people. The legislators are listening to the the Florida League of Cities, and all of these different cities that go and tell the legislature, "Hey, this is what we need." Florida just had one that says there's an anti-harassment law enforcement bill. You can't be within a certain amount of feet when the law enforcement when they're doing their activities, and otherwise they're going to be considering it harassment and interfering with their job. And that's what Florida just passed. So really, it's the cities, it's the people that are coming up. And what they're doing is they're pushing these legislatures and telling them, you need to put yourself in this position a couple times, and then we'll make some laws about it. I need to see some evidence that we need these laws, but they do it for a lot of the cities. I mean, that's it. If you look at the way that our industries work. It's like insurance, government, and what's the last part? Medical. That's really what like Florida's industry is. It's government. It really is, and it's sad that it's like that. So when we look at these new laws that are coming out, and we were talking about like victimless crimes like DUI, I stand with them on the same thing. You got to have some consequences for DUIs because people get killed from it. Speeding, there's some consequences for that too. However, if you really want to know how law enforcement are the road pirates of the world here, is when they sit in a school zone and they allow a person to speed through the school zone and then write them a ticket rather than protecting the kids, keeping their lights on and turning it on while they're waiting there. That's how you can really see when there is a policing for profit. That's really what it was. We had a quota that was issued to us at the police department when I was at, and my sergeant bucked it. He quit. I think it was about 2 months later. Said, "You're going to tell us we got to write tickets?" And it was on a memo. First person I stopped was the city manager of Daytona Beach. And guess what? I was called on the chief's office. "Why are you writing this ticket?" Sergeant was there. "You gave us a memo. It says, listen, you'd write these tickets. If they're 5 over, stroke them." So we couldn't win. It's all about a broken system to us, but the system is definitely rigged for them. Let me plug in my mic really quick. And Erie, if you want to take over for just a second on what I said there, and I'll get this thing fired back up. The battery died in it.
I know the debate was going to be between Long Island and Brian, but I know Long Island said he wasn't going to be able to do this for much more than an hour. I figured hour 30, I'd cut in and bring in some other people. So if you do have things you got to do, I know you got a family and stuff. If you want to stick around, you're more than welcome to. But I figured I'd bring in some other people to give some opinions on the whole topic of what was of today.
Before I go, I just wanted to respond to James. I definitely agree. It's by design, 100%. It's broken from the people's perspective. And my whole point is, how do we change that system, the broken system from our perspective? And I'm glad that we can agree on, DUI shouldn't be, driving under the influence. There's got to be, we live in a society where we have to, protect each other, right? We have to protect each other and protect each other from things like my niece losing the ability to, walk. And the guy actually killed his son that was in the front seat, but my niece lost the ability to walk at the age of 3, right when she was learning how to walk. So I'm a little, that's something that hits home for me. And you make a great point about letting people speed through schools, just so you can catch them and double the ticket and getting and pulling people over for profit. That should never be the case. It just, there are a lot of people out there that believe that, all victimless crimes should be, abolished in every single way. And I'm, I know I get heat for it, but I'm not of that mindset. A lot of people don't agree with me there, but I think that there are some laws that need to be, some rules that need to be put in place to prevent in order to save people's lives. If you're doing it to yourself, fine. That's why I'm against the war on drugs. Even though you've seen what's happening in, Washington state right now, where all drugs are illegal, and a lot of things are happening there that, from what I've seen. Again, I take unless I've been there. I actually should make a trip to go to Washington state soon, but unless I see it with my own eyes, I really don't know the situation. But when I see from the mainstream media and things of that nature, is, it's not really working out that well. But I'm a firm believer people should be able to do what they want with their bodies at any given time. It's your life. Do what you want. You have the freedom to do whatever you want with your body. But James, thank you. I'm definitely going to be trying to pop in and listen to what you got to say. I respect you guys a lot. Everybody here a lot. And thanks, Brian, for talking to me. I really appreciate it.
Quick before you go, Brian, did you have any other questions or anything you wanted to address with Long Island? Because I didn't expect it. I figured you guys would go for about 45 minutes, an hour max. But is there anything else that you wanted, questions you had for Long Island, or things that you wanted to specify?
No, I think he pretty much he covered it.
All right, and same for you. If you got things to do or whatever, or if you want to hang in, I got a few people in the basement that want to throw in some input on the whole, opinions and what the discussion was about. It's up to you if you want to hang out. But
yeah, I can hang. I can hang for another 15 or 20.
Thanks for joining us, Long Island, and giving us your opinions, and we appreciate you coming by.
All right, thanks, guys.
I'm going to throw one more in here. So we got 4 on the screen, and that is Texas Sheepdog, Jack Miller. I'm going to throw one more in here. So we got 4 on the screen, and that is Texas Sheepdog, Jack Miller. I'm going to throw one more in here. So we got 4 on the screen, and that is Texas. I'm muting him because he's got to turn his audio off. But go ahead, James. You are muted, James.
All right. Sorry about that. I'm on my phone and I can't hear you guys at all. Let me get a set of earphones for my computer. Can you hear me? Just shake your head yes or no.
Yeah, I got you. Can you Erie, am I good now?
Yeah, we can hear your audio. You're pretty loud.
I'm loud? Okay, let me get that. I'm sorry, man.
Hey, Patrick, can you get my headphones?
There we go. Good? Everything good?
I'm going to get my headphones. Y'all can hear me?
So what's really good is if we could all do this right now, you can type in USA in your phone or your chat. You'll put an American
You guys can hear me or no?
Yeah, you're good.
Shake your head yes if you can hear me.
Guys in the chat there, if you guys can, do me a favor.
Are you able to hear me? Okay, I'm going to go get my headphones.
Well, we're getting everything unity. Mine was messed up. Type in USA, put the American flag in there. If you're from a different country watching this, put your flag in there because that is the unity that we need. And I was going to talk about some stuff. If my mic isn't too loud and it's not overblowing you here, we do need unity. But just like religion, government is a form of a religion to people. They are so set on believing exactly what the government says. They rely on the government and they don't want to buck it because if they do, then they become part of the problem or the part of the system that doesn't want them to be part of it anymore. If that makes sense, you start going against government, they come after you for tickets. They come after you for code enforcement violations. But we all do. We need to chip away, as I think it was Long Island, and maybe here's the deal with saying, we do have to chip away at people and get them on our side to show it. Because then when we go to council meetings, show up with 30, 40 people like the armed fisherman is over there in Clearwater, we can do it with numbers and powers. That is really the most important. I can't talk for these things. That is really the most important part of what we're doing is to get people with unity rather than division, because we've already got enough division in this world, and that's what is scary about it. But as I was mentioning a minute ago, policing for profit is a real thing. You cannot get away from it. City of Edgewater in Florida doesn't use uniform traffic citations. They use their own ordinance, and they keep 100% of the profits. When you go down there, you get a ticket, you never fight it because it's cheap. It's $50. It's not the 118. So they take the money in. The system is working perfect for them. Let me see what else I had in here that was right here. You got to chip away the people. System is not broken. We talked about that. Here's the biggest problem with accountability. It's not the unions. I'm going to say it right out here in Florida specifically. It's not the unions. The unions are there in Florida to make sure that the police don't have their rights violated. And generally, 9 times out of 10, the reason why cops get their job back is because the union does have a good attorney and shows that the police chief did violate the rights. So therefore, they go into arbitration and then they start getting their job back by that. There's been some people that have punched people in the head, punched people in the face, in the eyes, in the mouth, and break jaws, break teeth. And what happens? They get their job back because their rights were violated, just like ours were. One trouble that we have down here, there's 4 agencies that are really troublesome. You got Daytona Beach Shores, you have DeLand Police Department, and Port Orange Police Department. Those are the troubled agencies in this area. There's some of the headlines that came out. A couple cops stuffed their 3-year-old in the jail cell, locking him up because of potty training issues. The cop lost his job. But however, on the forms that they filled out to send in to the police or to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, didn't include the appropriate check boxes to have the Florida Department of Law Enforcement review their certificates. Daytona Beach, guy named Kevin Allen. If you watch my videos, he's on there all the time. He was a guy that threatened to trespass or get me trespassed from a gas station. Not a big deal. You know, I'm filming. He's trying to violate my rights. But then it ticks up and he's choking a man with his own t-shirt. And then it ticks up. I just put a video out of him doing a 67-year-old man, punching him in the mouth and the face. In addition to that, what does he do? He trespasses honor your oath from a park. Why did this happen? I was in an arbitration where two cops were trying to get their jobs back. But one of them didn't succeed. The other one did. And what did the police chief of Daytona Beach say? He said that Kevin Allen lied on an IA. This is a sworn statement. He lied on an IA. He then corrected the story after the IA was either closed or in the process of being closed. That's what you call a Brady officer, right? What did the chief do? Nothing. The attorney, the guy whose name is Brian Lambert, he was doing the not a deposition, but the arbitration. And what did the attorney Lambert say to him? Well, you sent in a Form 78. You did that, right? You corrected it? And he looked at the form and he's like, no, we didn't send in the Form 78 to Florida Department of Law Enforcement. That would have been on one of these incidents, would have been the triggering for them to investigate his certificate, the state law enforcement agency to investigate this cop's ticket. So what does he do? Doesn't. He's been told that he needs to do it. And he says, yeah, we should have sent it in. He's looking at the form. We should have sent it in. What does he do? Never sends it in. And that's how he protects the officer. The chief is protecting this officer for who knows why. You jump over to DeLand Police Department. There's a guy that's over there. He's chasing down domestic violence victims, getting their phone numbers and trying to get in a relationship with each one of them. There's an IA that this is a public service has. That same officer says, I can't work around, I'm going to paraphrase, but I can't work around the high schools because the girls in here are so overdeveloped. He's still a cop. The system's not broken for them. It's broken for us. Lastly, Port Orange, using that example over here, there's a cop that was doing something nasty to a 16-year-old boy that he met on a video gaming system. He still has a certificate. He was able to resign. When Long Island Audit goes and does these appeals, and he does these court cases where he's trying to stick up for her rights, I guarantee you there's already some court case in place. But because Long Island Audit was wearing a blue shirt and the other guy was wearing a white shirt, they don't generally. I mean, they do. I'm being kind of like overboard, facetious here with this. But because he was wearing a different color shirt the day that he was going in there doing the same thing the guy was in a black shirt, they'll say it's different circumstances. We have the ability to record anywhere in public. You have the different types of forums, limited, you have traditional, and a police department is not a traditional traditional forum. However, you should be able to go in there because of existing case laws that are like Smith v. Cumming in our area. You have the Department of Edward v. Ag that covers, there's no expectation of privacy. But you are in a different shirt. It's a different situation. And that's what sucks about it. But it's going back to that. It's not the unions in our area that are doing it. They go in there and get them money. That's when you need to go speak up, is when the unions are trying to get more money for these cops that are doing nothing but either sitting around spotlighting cars and trying to do profiling and find out if there's a black guy or a white guy in the car. That is what we all need to be doing, is recording the police all the time. And I don't know, do we even see some of those? We didn't see any flags in here in chat. I was trying to look at no flags. We got to get united. Put some USA flags in there. But lastly, being a former law enforcement officer and listening to what they're going through and what everything that Long Island Audit has, I've never been arrested. He's taken more for the team than any one of us. Honor Your Oath has too. And I think everybody in here, sitting in here, Texas Sheepdog, and then you as well, Brian, have taken arrests, right? We all have. Even Erie County. I'm the unicorn for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe it's probably because they all know me. But it didn't stop them from putting charges against me for some unrelated thing, threatening to blow up a building, which that I don't do. And why? It was all the system. It was a mom of a cop that works in the agency where I was charged at. And that's how that system tried to screw me from doing what I was doing. They want to put bomb charges. They want to put me away. They want to do this because we all expose them. So getting together, unity, and yeah, I want the American flag. I want the corporation one. But getting together and having unity in this community, if you will, is going to be so much better. When Erie comes down here, we get in a car together. We go out. If Brian comes down, or Texas Sheepdog, been out to Texas Sheepdog, him and all the other guys were out there when we were out in Texas, and we were diving down that little baby that wouldn't go into that school and help them in Texas. You remember that Sheepdog? Remember we were out there? Yeah, he remembers it. Yeah, he does.
Yeah, I remember the Uvalde mayor was yelling at me, remember?
Yeah, so that's the unity that we need. We need to be able to do that. I can go and talk to any one of these guys, never argue with them, because unless they get convicted of something like Long Island was saying, we have that freedom of speech. I cuss, I call cops pieces of crap with the S word attached to it. I don't like what they do to people. And one of my biggest shorts that came out just recently is Officer Guruchari in Daytona Beach. He's a cop that's gone through a lot of stuff, I would say. I guess he had some medical issues. Won't talk about him here because I don't know him that well. I know they published it publicly. Jeff and I encountered him. Honor and I encountered him. We thought he was a good cop. We thought he was. He may be. I don't know. I don't think he is. However, what Guruchari did is let Jeff and I say, "No, you're cool, man. Just you film here. You film what you need. You got everything. Need anything from me? Nope, that's good. All right, keep on doing what you're doing. Hold your sign up. Says this right here. God bless the homeless vets. This is one of Jeff's signs. He signed it for me and gave me that. That was probably the sign that he was holding. But a month later, Guruchari didn't realize we were hiding in the woods or hiding on the street next to him. And he told some 19-year-old kid that he only heard loud diesel truck exhaust, "I'm going to get you. You're my new favorite target." And I was standing there. So these guys, powered by ego, powered by whatever it is right here, enforce laws from the state of Florida, which generally comes from the council members, which generally comes from legislators that are getting pressured from the local cities and talking to them saying, "We need this and that." If you think they work from us, you got something else coming. They don't work for us. It's a big time oppression, a big time way to make money. I mean, think about the taxes you pay, and then everybody that gets tickets, ordinance violations, water bills, and everything like that. They are the biggest industry in the entire United States. The government is. So.
Hey, James, I got a question for you.
Yeah, I'm rambling. I can't talk and I got to hear myself, and I can't. But go ahead.
Can you hear me, James?
Yes, I got you there.
Oh, hey, man, I wanted to talk to you for a long time.
Yeah.
I appreciate your work. I've been following you for a while, by the way.
Thank you.
I got a question for you. Okay, so being a former insider for a police department, what is I got to believe that every one of us, although probably not every one of us, but I want to believe that every one of us wants freedom and we want to push back tyranny. What do you see from being an insider as the most effective way of going about affecting positive change for freedom in America?
Videos. This right here stifles them. It reduces their, like you say, tyranny. It reduces their ability to go out there and say, "Shoot, I don't think anybody's recording." They're always looking over their heads. They were always worried about someone coming up and shooting them when I was trained. When I was trained, they said, "Be careful. You got to go out there. Everybody's out to get you." And now, from what I have and some of the sources that I get, it's the cameras. I mean, film, record. If they tell you to back up, do your thing. They still violated your rights if you didn't have a legal reason to back you up. But at least you're documenting. At least you know we're there. That you were there. So yeah, the camera.
Part of the reason at the end of the discussion between Long Island and Brian here was to bring some other people up to get some opinion on what they spoke about. And before we get too far, I want to give my opinion on whether I think that all law enforcement are Gestapo, whether they're all tyrants, whether or not some of them do good at some points and sometimes. And my opinion is there is no such thing as a good cop. All right, there's no such thing as a non-tyrant cop. All right, because if there was, there would be no tyrant cops. They would take care of the problem. There wouldn't be people with cameras spawning all over. I mean, you just look at this community. Every single day, there's another channel spawning up because there's so many tyrants. There's not enough good cops to drown out the bad ones. And if there is a good cop, he's not doing enough to, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of people will say, "Oh, well, he'll lose his job, his livelihood." Bullshit. You took a job to do the right thing, all right? If you're going to lose your job from doing the right thing, so be it, all right? Just the same thing. I'm on federal probation. I could catch myself in a lot more trouble out on an audit, but you know what? I'm out there to do the right thing. I'm willing to take that risk. And if a cop isn't willing to take that risk and risk his job, he is not a good cop. All right? There's no such thing. And the other reason that I consider there's no such thing as a good cop, and they're all Gestapo, they're all tyrants, whatever word or term you want to use it. I mean, maybe some people who lived in a country where Gestapo meant, they're getting beheaded. I mean, maybe they look at the word Gestapo differently. But around here, Gestapo, tyrant, these words are exaggerations, but they're meant to be exaggerations. They're meant to make these people look bad because they're doing bad. All right. Cops took a job to be like I guess the best way I can explain it is when I went through high school, I took criminal justice in Bosie Harkness Center, where I thought about being a police officer. I want to be a police officer. I decided one day I'm not going to be a police officer. I can't do it. I like to do illegal things. I don't want to be a hypocrite, right? Come to find out later in life that the reason cops became cops is so they can get away with that shit. So they can get away with the hypocritical stuff. But the point in that all is that they took a job of honor. They took a job high up to enforce laws. And if they're going to turn around and break the same laws, they're shitbag tyrants. I don't care what anybody says. Bootlickers are the most blinded people, jaded people on earth. There is no such thing as a good cop. All right. You can be I guess a great example would be prisons across this country are full to the gills of great, really nice, great people 90% of the time. But that 5% of the time or 2% of the time that got them in prison makes them a bad person. When a cop does something tyrannical and doesn't follow the law, that 2% is amplified 10,000 times because they wear the badge. They're supposed to be the honor. So as far as I'm concerned, I've seen too many cops be shitbag tyrants, and they got this blue line flag they like to fly, and they call it the Brotherhood. So I'll tell you what, if they want to be the Brotherhood, if they want to back the blue no matter what, I don't care how good you are, you're getting tied in with the rest of them until you good cops fix the bad cop problem. So in my opinion, there is no such thing as a good cop. And as far as I'm concerned, the title of the whole thing that started this all is I'm just following orders. Which order are you following? Because at the end of the day, the Constitution should be rule number one. All right. So if a law violates the Constitution and you're violating it, you're a Gestapo tyrant piece of shit bag. That's my opinion.
Well, you know where the thin blue line is? Sorry, bro. I'm telling.
No, go ahead.
The thin blue line lies with whoever the chief is at that department. You don't think that? Think about it. If you cross that thin blue line, you don't have a job, right? Who fires you? Chief. Who hires you? Thin blue line surrounds the chief and the administration and what they tell you need to go out and do. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, and what a lot of people don't realize is they take an oath not to just uphold the Constitution of the United States, but ... and the laws of their state. And most of those laws are cruel, wicked, and just flat out unjust and immoral. So when you're calling yourself a law enforcer, you're talking about you're swearing on the Bible to enforce unjust laws. I've got in writing Sheriff Jim Skinner representing 3,086 sheriffs all across the nation. There's only 3,144 counties. So every single sheriff signs on under Jim Skinner to violate everybody's rights under something called civil asset forfeiture. If that is not criminal activity, I don't know what is. That's 100% of the sheriffs. How about the police chiefs and the police officers from the biggest law enforcement agencies, the New York Police Department, the Chicago Police Department, the London Police Department in England. Every one of them swears to uphold and enforce laws, including the unjust ones. That alone makes them immoral. And if there was only one law that they were violating, the Second Amendment or enforcing the drug law, they're violating the individual rights of people they're supposed to be protecting and serving. It's inherently hypocritical and downright evil. Yeah, there can't be good cops.
So let's talk about something here that they were, the Gestapo thing and Tyrant. If you have Gestapo on this end, and if it's backwards, I'm sorry, and you have Tyrant on this end, where yours is the extreme far part, what happened in Germany, and this is just someone that's just a ruler that wants to rule over you and does it in any fashion and form. If you look at some of the numbers that are coming out today, I'm just not going to read the article where it's from, but it says, the headline says 2023 was the deadliest year for killings by police in the U.S., experts say, and this is why. Now, you don't have to have an acute moment where like that was over a short period of time. But if you look at the amount of people that have been killed, I'm going to read off here. This is Statista. I don't know if it's true or not, but these seems that they were published by certain people and it's verified and validated. Supplemental notes. It's got to be 2013, 1,000, 2014, 1,000, 2015, 1,100, 2016, 1,000, 1,100, 1,151, 1,100, 1,152, 1,180, 1,255, 1,300, 2023. And then on 2024, we're at 175 deaths so far by police. This is killed by police. So we got a boiling pot, don't we? If we don't have it over an acute period of time, a short period of time, It's just consistent. It's just a consistent flow. And this year being the most deadliest, we've seen it with that man that was a mental. Didn't we have one of those? He was having a mental breakdown, right? And his grief counselor or whatever it was came out in the middle of the street and laid with him. Does anybody remember that? Or we just forget it because it's not it's not published anymore and we're not looking at it. Didn't that happen?
I remember.
Yes.
I remember.
They're not there to come in and help you and save you. They're there to just do whatever they do by force. That's why they have so many laws, and that's why they have so many laws that protect them rather than that protect us. There's no law that says there's not one law in the book that protects us from police officers. Find it. But go ahead, someone else.
I didn't
Jack.
want to interrupt you guys, but I have so much to say. So there's so much to say about why police continue to offend and why they offend in the first place. Are they just following orders? Do they just not care? And so I can't talk about all of them, but I think the basis from my experience, because I don't know about you, James, but I wasn't a good cop in the beginning. I sat there and watched them do what they do. Now, I never laid hands on nobody when I shouldn't have, because it's the way I was raised. But it rubbed me the wrong way from day one. And after a year or two, I finally grew the balls to start doing something about it. And I started snitching on them left and right. Did so secretly because it was dangerous, literally physically dangerous to be caught snitching on another cop. It still is. But my opinion, why do they offend? And why do they keep offending? Cops are much like children. So if you've ever had children or you were a child yourself at one time, you understand that it's all about consequence and benefit when you're fixing to make a decision. From the time you're old enough to comprehend consequence and benefit until the day you die, every decision you make, you're going to consider the benefit that you're going to get from that decision and the consequence. And currently, and it's been this way for forever, when a police officer has a decision to make, much like a child making a decision to cuss at mommy and daddy when they're not supposed to, if that child knows that the consequence is going to outweigh the benefit, they're not going to cuss at mom and dad. When a cop knows that the consequence is going to outweigh the benefit of what they're fixing to do to you, they're not going to do it. But here's the thing. Currently, there's just no consequence. We get thrown a bone every now and then, but for the most part, they're protected. And we talked about police unions and things like that. We're getting on something there. I think every great champion, I'll use Mike Tyson as an example, a champion, or Muhammad Ali, a champion. Look at they do the same thing that NFL football teams do, for example. They study their opponent. NFL football teams spend hours and hours and hours studying video of their opponent in order to beat them. So we have to do the same thing. I guarantee you, Mike Tyson, even though he knocked people out in seconds, he studied his opponents. And we have to do the same thing. We have to study our opponent. We have to know who our opponent is first, and we have to study our opponent to know what we're up against, or else you're just throwing fists in the wind. So
Right.
there's protection for the police, and there's money behind it. If you're here in Texas, something that's never talked about is where the money comes from to defend the police. And people say, oh, it's police unions. It's not. There's a place called Texas Municipal League Risk Pool. You can look it up on the internet. Texas Municipal League Risk Pool. It is literally, it's literally, and then you probably have something in your state that goes by a different name. But what that is it is literally what it says. It is a pool. Much like you get together with your coworkers and you throw money in to buy a lotto ticket. Well, here in Texas, city and county governments throw money into this pool, and they use that money to pay lawyers to defend bad cops, and they pay money to settle cases and make them go away. And currently, as of this year, they have almost $1 billion in that account, and it's only used to pay out police stuff. So that's what we're fighting against here in Texas. We have to understand that opponent. The officers know, and the officers know who their protection comes from. And so what we're fighting here, and you're most likely fighting it in your part of the country. You're not fighting the police. You're not fighting the police chief. You're fighting the money. And as long as that money's there, it's going to be harder and harder to fight. The police, the bad cops, they're not going to go away. Right now, there's a 9-year-old, 11-year-old, 15-year-old that's being
He's a cop.
raised by a bad cop. And they'll become bad cops and rinse, repeat. So they're always going to be coming up and coming in front of us. And we're all doing what we can do. We're doing what we can do. The videos, the exposure, like James mentioned, and I didn't catch the first part of Brian and Long Island's Audit's conversation. So if you mentioned that, thank you. But I heard James mention the videos, the exposure, and bringing things to light. It's extremely powerful. But I think that consequence has to outweigh the benefit. Getting exposed is a consequence. James will tell you, if you're a cop and you do something and everybody knows about it, you never live it down, and it affects you.
Right.
And it can affect you for promotions. So it does have effect.
Private
But
jobs
this
too.
money, this money. What I started doing here in Texas, and maybe I don't have as many subscribers as all you guys have, and I'm honored to be in your presence. But part of that reason is because I would say 90% of what I do doesn't end up on YouTube. I just get out there and push. I'm not saying that anything about the guys that put a bunch of stuff on YouTube. Thank you for doing that. I enjoy it. But I do something a little different. So Texas Municipal League Risk Pool, we were in federal court mediation just earlier this year. They refused to settle my raid case because they said, and I quote, "Giving him $1 will only embolden him. He's made a business out of getting people across Texas to sue us. And since 2020, so this was earlier in 2020 or later in 2022, since 2020, 2-year period, he's cost us over $350,000 in settlements."
They should have been
Okay.
doing the right thing.
Okay, so, well, no, I get that part, but here's what's important. I started in 2017, 18, doing this, and then about 2019, this is what I started doing when I got my first attorney to start paying attention, and that's one of the hardest things to do is get an attorney to pay attention. When I got Solomon Radner to pay attention, and then Grable and Grimshaw came on. Now we have, and then I got another attorney, Robertson Palmer out of Dallas, and then now we have a fourth attorney, CJ Grisham. Okay, when I started getting these attorneys to come on and start paying attention and listen to me, what I did was I started, somebody sends you a video and you put it on YouTube. That's great. And I do too sometimes. Like Lackluster, for instance, right? He's really good at doing that. And it's so important for him to do that. And everybody else that does the same thing. But what I did, I took it a step further. I reached out to these people. I'll drive to them, do whatever I can to get all the facts, package it in a way that I know what is taste that makes an attorney salivate, right? I trim off the fat. The fat's important, but I trim off the fat, get to the attorney, don't waste their time. Next thing you know, these people are retaining that attorney. Then, as soon as those people tell me they're retaining it, now the attorney can't tell me anything, right? But the people keep me informed. So they retain the attorney. I find out about it, and I instantly fire off an email to Texas Municipal League Risk Pool. And I say, hey, here is your latest plaintiff. Congratulations. And then I remind them of an email I first sent them that they ignored. And I said, look, if you want to mitigate, if you want to minimize the amount of money you're paying out, work with me. I can help you do that. I think I can help. I know the answer to, and what does that mean? That means I'm offering to help reduce the abuse, which reduces the money they pay out, which the money is important to them. They don't care about the abuse. We do. But if you minimize the money getting paid out, that means you're minimizing the abuse. So they have ignored me so far. But I promised them that if they continue to ignore me, I was going to make it a mission in my life to cause a money bleed out of their account, their $1 billion account. I'm going to make it bleed. And so that's what I've been doing. So much so that they're in federal court, one, taking a position not to settle a case that they're going to pay dearly for, and two, complaining about the money they said my name have cost them. Imagine if there were 20 people doing what I'm doing, and then multiply that by 5 all across the country with all these places that have the money to fund these police. Then it starts becoming a consequence for the money. And if it becomes a consequence for the money, it'll then trickle down and become a consequence for the police. Because the first thing the money's going to do is figure out how they're going to spend less money, and they're going to put the bullshit on the cops. These money people, Texas Police Risk Pool, they don't just defend cops. They're up in our state capitals. They're lobbying, they're funding lobbyists, and they're getting more laws passed to protect cops while we're asleep. Whenever their money starts to bleed, then they'll start passing laws that protect the citizens as much as they protect the cops, and maybe not so much the cops. But until we touch their money, what we're doing is important. But I just wanted to drive that home. There has to be consequences for the cops, and I believe that we have to start where the money is. So
Texas Sheepdog. Let me ask you a question, because you're bringing a new term to Texas Municipal League Risk Pool. So they get money from affiliates, and those affiliates are connected to lobbyists within the legislature, or how does that work?
Okay, so Texas Municipal League Risk Pool, it's one whole. They have Texas Municipal League, and they generally cover any kind of government agency against tort stuff, like one of their buildings falls on somebody, or somebody trips in their front lobby. They have a separate account for that.
But does the money does the money come from like property taxes? Where does the money actually come from?
Where do they get their money from?
Yeah.
So Texas Municipal League Risk Pool is not a governmental agency. They're like a private insurance. Leon Valley's city administrator, famous for saying, "We have insurance for that," when asked about civil rights violations. The insurance she's talking about, or she's referring to, is the Texas Municipal League Risk Pool. So where do they get their money? So any city in Texas or county in Texas, and I'm leaving out the federal government, they have something else, the equivalent, but something else. This is city, state, and county governments here in Texas. They can all choose voluntarily to be part of the Texas Municipal League. And for that, they pay premiums or dues. That money goes into these accounts. And then for that, they get things like education, training, they get policy guidance. Literally, Texas Municipal League put out a class here in Texas about us and how police departments can deal with us. Now, I saw that training. It's highly confidential. And hopefully, if I win my council seat here in Kirby, I'll become privy to that stuff as a council person. But anyway, they put out training. The training was bullshit. It really, some of it was good, but most of it was just going to keep getting them in trouble. But the point is they put out policy. They put out guidance. They guide these cities. These cities and counties depend on them for guidance. So imagine if right now the Texas Municipal League could give a shit about if they police arrest you for interfering when you're not interfering. They don't care. So they don't tell the cities anything. But imagine if there was a money bleed, they'd start telling these cities, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, and the cities would stop. Okay, and so these cities pay the money, and that's where they get their money from, and in turn they get protection. And these accounts, why does it have $1 billion in there? I'm just a GED educated GED Jack, but I'm gonna tell you, I know a little bit about how you take money and you grow it, and they do the same thing, and they're very good at it. And so this money is only getting bigger. We have to make it bleed. And how do we make it bleed? We get, and then, so that's what. Now I'll get to my point, my big point, and then I'll stop talking so much. How do we make that money bleed? We get actions into court, like Long Island Audit, getting them into court. And I don't know about you guys, Brian Young and James Madison. Thank you, Erie County. I've never heard of their channels prior to you featuring them today. I'm just kidding. But no, I'm just kidding. But we got to get these things into court. And while I haven't had any new cause for civil claims against police in a couple of years, there are tons of people every day that have them. And if we could take a little bit part of our day, out of our time to get with these folks, a lot of these folks are not, I don't want to, and I'm not bashing on these folks, these victims, but there's a lot of victims who just aren't that smart when it comes to life in general or lawsuits or what to do when they're violated. But people, especially former law enforcement, we know what it takes to get these lawsuits where they need to be. And if we can do that, it starts eating away at their money. Even if we lose, it costs them money, a lot of money. And if we could just multiply those instances, they just start bleeding money, and then they care. Money talks, bullshit walks.
Yeah,
And
so
we're fighting, our biggest opponent is money.
Pull up Florida League of Cities. I'm going to touch on it really quick. I do have to run because I got it. I'll tell you why here in just a second. Florida League of Cities. Once you do there, go to advocacy, second little column right after about right there, and then go down to where it says action alerts. This is the same thing that Texas Sheepdog is talking about in Texas. That's in Florida. Same kind of system. It's a group of people. It's all the cities piling together, and they have all these legislative information on here. You need to watch this. Contact these legislators to push this through. This is what we need. Once you click on each one of those, they'll give you their recommendations on it on another blog page. I do have to run. I'm going to get out of here. And the reason why I wanted to tell you about that is because it's happening everywhere in the entire United States. There's all insurance covered for all civil rights because there's no accountability. No one is ever personally held accountable. It's very rare. But if you do make these videos, guys, this is my last thing I want to say. If you do start making these videos, and I was saying, a cop tells you, hey, you need to get back, move back. Don't worry about getting your rights violated. And if you're not in the right way, just zoom in, take 10 steps back, zoom in. Because what will happen is you'll be noticed. They'll know that they're being watched. And as you make these videos and you make them right, you'll get contacts. I'm going to read you what just came in over my text message right here. I can't read it. It says, is this James Madison Audits? I work for X police department. I was involved in X incident. I would like to set up a time to speak with you at a later date. Is that okay? I said, yes. How about tonight? I'll give you a call. When you start making videos and you affect change and you know that you're going to stop some of these bad cops, or know that you're going to put them into a little bit of a bind because they're going to be on the internet and their department's going to know about it, you're going to get these contacts that come up. A police officer contacted me at 9:45 or 10 o'clock at night asking me to call them so that I could do a story on something that they want to tell me about. You don't turn law enforcement away from you. I'm here. Texas Sheepdog is here. They cannot speak sometimes because they are afraid. They might have a kid, like Long Island said, might have a kid at home. They don't want to lose their job. And as Erie says, well, they're in the wrong profession. They are, but they want to be able to make change, but they can't in fear for losing their home, their livelihood. And they start to realize that that's what they do to us as soon as they put the handcuffs on. So make your videos, make them clean, open yourself up to anybody that wants to come talk to you. I have probably 35 cops that talk to me in my area here.
I actually
James,
made up.
you're absolutely
made
right.
up cards when the beginning years ago. I made up cards in the beginning that I handed out at the police stations. Like, hand these out to the guys. These are the tip. This is the corrupt police tip line, just to freak them out.
Look, man, James, you're absolutely right, and I'm in the same boat. Tons of law enforcement contacts, cops that I'm not going to call them good cops. Okay, I respect Mr. Erie opinion on there are no good cops, but I can tell you, take it for everybody that's watching. Take it for what it's worth. You're looking at two former cops here that have been behind that curtain, and as such, we have a lot of contacts and stuff. And they reach out to us. So there are cops out there that want to make the change. And James, what James is saying is absolutely right. It's absolutely dangerous for them. So they depend on people like us, and they can depend on people like you too. And Erie, handing cards out, every single cop that I come across, I don't care if they're bad or good, I always hand them a card and I tell them, if you ever want to tell on another cop and you're scared to, call me. It's confidential. And Leon Valley came in and seized my whole studio, and we learned through depositions and discovery that one of their main focuses was trying to determine who my law enforcement contacts and sources were. And you know what? They didn't find the ones that mattered. They only found the ones that didn't care about being found. So Madison brings up a great point. Don't turn law enforcement away if they're coming in and asking for help.
Hello,
Embrace
gentlemen.
them. Yeah, embrace them.
Hello, everybody.
Good to see you guys, gentlemen. Eerie,
Oh,
gonna
don't trust
stab
him.
you.
Sorry,
First
Joe.
opportunity I
Sorry,
get, I'm
Joe.
gonna
Don't
stab
trust
you.
him, but embrace him. Sorry.
That's a
Dude,
fact. Don't trust them.
You missed all the fucking fire, all opportunity. Fuck, you're grr. All right. Fucking Brian, good fucking job, bro. Great fucking arguments, man. I was down there burning to get in, but I could relax because you do this shit much better than I do. Great fucking job. LIA, his best argument was the soft answer, turn away wrath argument. You know,
Where'd he go?
fuck.
What the heck?
Can't nobody.
Somebody called him. What's up, everybody?
Hey, while he's having audio difficulties, I just want to touch on something James said about taking an arrest. You don't have to take an arrest. If an officer says move back, there's no problem with moving back. You're not giving up anything. Remain the journalist. Keep your camera rolling. You can't roll your camera right in their face if you're in cuffs. It's a little harder to do. So sometimes decide, go ahead and back up and keep that camera rolling. The people you're filming are depending on you to catch everything on video. Don't give it up because you want to throw your pee-pee out and get into a pissing contest with a cop. Every arrest that I took that arrest, but I only took a handful.
Well,
but I've been threatened with arrest 100 fucking times. It's okay to step back.
That's not what it's about.
Well, it's okay to step back and remain the journalist and get them on
just
camera.
just your presence.
The reason
honest.
The reason why we don't step back is because we don't follow unlawful orders.
Oh, I get that part. And I'm not saying to follow unlawful orders, but for those people
that's like if a cop told you to take your pants down, we gotta fucking take our pants down.
No, you and me, Joe, you and me can take an arrest. But for those people I'm talking to those people that can't take an arrest. They still need to get out there and point the camera at the cops. Now, me and you, we're told to step back. We don't step back because we're okay with taking that arrest, but some people can't. So for those people, go ahead and step back and keep your camera pointed at them.
Right.
What about when you're told to put your shirt back on?
I agree with that. Yeah.
Again, if you can't take an arrest, put your shirt back on. I'm not putting my shirt back on. In fact, more stuff's coming off.
Erie County, what's up, man?
Ninja can attest to that. I don't care where I'm standing. All the clothes are coming off.
I can't hear you, Ninja. Okay. Yo, I just wanted to come on here and say, great job, Brian. It was a very it's a good conversation. I agree with I agree with you. I agree with Erie County. I don't believe there's any such thing as a good cop. Fuck the police, period.
I believe there's good people. They're great people. They mean well, but to be calling yourself a good cop while there's bad cops on the loose, it's hypocrisy.
I don't think there's any good cops. I think there are people that are cops that some of them are doing good, but they ain't good cops, because if they were good cops, they'd come out in the open.
There's no good cops.
You know what you call a good cop? Unemployed.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, we need to empower these cops that have an inclination to do the right thing. We need to empower them and let them know we have their back. Let us know and let us deal with it.
You guys touched on so many good points to where it's like, Dan, you said that people become cops so that they could get away with illegal shit. It was like that. I mean, it probably still is like that to this day, but I know back in the days, a lot of cops did that. You know what I mean? You see a lot of cops that was, attached with the mob and the mafia and shit like that.
We agreed there were no good cops. We all agree with that shit. Yeah, the two cats who probably didn't agree with were Long Island and fucking James Madison, both gone. Both which I'd like to fucking put to the flame.
Well, this is the after show.
This is the after show. Them niggas gone.
That's why we couldn't put Joe Cool on too soon because he'd steal the show,
The main topic was them, and now it's the after show. Let's talk about it. Let's get into it.
UTX, you seem the most fucking cop friendly. I apologize, but in their absence, I gotta fucking get somebody a hard time, right?
Oh my
can't you agree
God.
Hey, in all
You know what?
seriousness, though,
Anybody?
guys.
Yeah.
In all seriousness, though, any one of us or all of us could be no-knock rated in the next 5 minutes, and it would just drastically, detrimentally, negatively change our lives. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we're on borrowed time. They're trying to push the CBDC, the central bank digital currency, down our throat. So, what do we do to actually affect the change right now? I mean, other than, I agree with James Madison. One of the things that we have to do is increase transparency and just put the sunshine of truth on these cops and reveal exactly what's going on. But how do we stop the no-knock raids, or is it stoppable? How do we stop the drug war? How do we stop people going to jail because they have a firearm?
Brian,
You was brought to it, Brian, when you said tell them the truth. You were onto it.
can I
Right?
show
You got to, all right, we don't have to call them Gestapo, but motherfuckers got to be honest. We can't be putting them up on pedestals telling them they're good people and doing good things for everybody. We got to be honest. Go ahead, somebody.
Can I ask you a question, Brian?
Yeah.
It's Good Guy Act. It's David from Good Guy.
What's up, Dave? How you doing, man?
Small channel coming out of New York.
Like we don't know who you are.
What do you think? I don't know if you ever been asked this question. It just came in my head. I just woke up. I didn't even realize I was on panel. I fell asleep to you guys' voices. You know what I mean? I fell asleep to the voices of freedom.
Stop the cap.
That was a good sleep. I don't know. I was just like hearing voices talking about freedom, and it felt good. Then I woke up. Next thing I know, I was on panel. But what do you think the next great revolution would be about? What do you think would be the cause of it? Do you think it'll be them trying to take away our freedom? Because it's like I think to myself about all the fucking bootlickers that's out there, and like how the fuck do we persuade the bootlickers to open their eyes? Like this government is not for us. You know what I mean? The system is not for us. Like, what do you think the next great revolution will be about? Like,
I think it's going to have to be like a Silk Road, a parallel economy kind of thing. I mean, I don't know if you guys are keeping up with Bitcoin, but it hit 72,500 and something today. So if we can get out of, and I know people are conflicted on cryptocurrency and all that kind of stuff, but all I'm saying is we got to create some kind of parallel economy where we can use a parallel currency that's recognized by everybody, because perception is everything. So we got to get out of that. That would see if we want to stop police forces. I agree with James Madison audits. We got to demonetize police forces. So the question is, how do you demonetize them? Because if they don't have money, they don't have power. They won't be able to hire the people that are going to knock down our doors. They're not going to be able to buy the equipment, the Bearcats, the MRAPs, and all that garbage. So, I mean, the question is, how do we do that? Because if you can
to crush them,
politicians
or win them over.
I really wanted to know what you think the next revolution.
I don't know. And to answer your question, good guys, I don't know. After March 2020, when they introduced this planned organized shutdown pandemic thing, I'm kind of confused on. If the revolution didn't start with shutting down the country, I don't know what's going to start a revolution.
That's what I think. I was like, man, I would think it would be lockdowns, but it didn't seem to bat an eye. I think they gave the government green light just about. Like they ain't scared of shit.
Was riots. There was riots in the street in the Bronx. There was streets on fire and shit like that.
If they haven't done anything so far, my personal opinion is, if we haven't had a revolution yet today, the people aren't ready to have one. And I feel like the government has gone so out of control at this point that there's no turning back. Like the activism that we all do, I think all it really does is just kind of slows the progress of tyranny. But they're laughing in our face, man, especially out here in Colorado. It's a joke to them. It just kind of slows them down a little bit. It does nothing. There has to be some type of revolution. I mean, you guys better just enjoy revolution. You better just enjoy your freedom now while you still have a little bit of it, because it's soon going to be, we're just going to be slaves and chains. But having
a revolution, you have an opponent, right? So can anybody tell me if this is a whole other show? If we were to engage in a revolution, who's our opponent?
The government, tyranny.
If you want to win and you don't know who your opponent is and you don't understand your opponent, you're going to lose in any contest.
The opponent would be the government, tyranny.
Evil,
dishonesty. Too many people are just
that's your opponent.
Too many people they don't understand. They're asleep still. They think that government's good for you and they're here to protect you and that police are the good guys. There's too many people that believe
what
that.
Percentage of the population in America is asleep?
Audio check.
80%.
Is my
I say
audio
80%. Yes, your
80%
audio.
of
Okay.
Americans
But
are.
Okay, let me drive this revolution talk home. All right. The Civil War. Who was their opponent? Was it the South, the government in the South? No. It was the people. The people are the government. And so
We're
the
meant to
Civil
be the
War
government.
would have never, slavery would have never been stopped until the majority of the people wanted it stopped. The majority of the people in our country. And there came a time where the majority of the people in our country wanted it stopped. The Civil War happened and it got stopped. So
who was our
do you
opponent?
think the majority,
Texas
hold on, do
Rebel.
you think the majority of the people in this country want to stop police from abusing people?
No, that's why I posed the
No, he
No.
just
question. How
said
many?
like
That's why I posed the
5% or
question. What
something. Yeah.
percent of people are asleep?
So,
80%.
who is our opponent?
So a revolution is just spinning our wheels.
I heard it won't be televised
them
anyways.
bleed, make their
Is my
make their
audio working
insurance,
or no?
Yes,
yeah.
Ninja. We can
Okay.
hear
make
you.
their make the insurance
Hey,
that
they ended slavery
covers
and
the
Galveston
cops
kept their
bleed money.
slaves for at least like 50 more years here in Texas.
We're not
We're not
supposed.
talking about slavery. We're talking
Not
about
supposed
stopping
to
the
hear
cops,
I
right?
didn't hear what he said, really.
We're talking about stopping the cops. Make the money, make the people that have the money that back these cops bleed money out of their accounts. You do that by taking these people into court. And even if they lose, they got to spend a ton of money.
And I was going to object with Erie County. There's such thing as a good cop.
Oh, good.
The cops that quit.
You talking about Officer Down?
And they ain't cops now.
That's
You
Ninja.
true.
talking about
Well,
you talking
Ninja,
about
we're not
Officer
supposed
Down?
to hear you. You're a
Cops in a
ninja.
box.
can
The
I
ones
can
that
I
quit.
can I address something real quick, guys? I want to just address something that happened, or the entire debate here between Brian and Long Island. So
Yeah.
first we had I just kind of go in chronological order here. So we had the Second Amendment that was brought up, and you know, Long Island was like, hey, you know, we can't have people that are crazy, that are having guns and stuff like that. And the thing is
Who
that
said that?
I thought Long Island said, you know, we can't have people that mental health issues have weapons and stuff like that, or, you know, people that are dangerous shouldn't have weapons. But the thing is that, like, okay, like gang members, there, you know, there's no gang members that are like, hey, homie, I can't come to the drive-by tonight because, you know, I'm waiting for my permit still, bud. Like, that's just not realistic, man. So like everyone already knows, it's just reiteration of things that we already know, is that when you take away guns from people, it's just taking it away from law-abiding citizens. You're not going to
You know
stop
what?
criminals from getting guns. Hold on. Let me
You
finish.
know what?
Hold on. Let me just finish what I'm saying here, though. And so, Brian, you said something a long time ago that really struck a chord with me, man. And you said that it's an inalienable right that we have to protect ourselves. And 99% of the human population has been in 50 to 100 people tribes. Okay. And so, like, even as cavemen, we had an inalienable right to protect ourselves, whether it's with a spear or a rock or a bow and arrow. And nowadays, if you're a felon, even if it's a non-violent felony, right? You cannot own a gun. You cannot protect yourself. And in Colorado, it gets even worse. Like, you can't even have pepper spray. So you have no means of protecting yourself. Why? Because literally in Colorado, you could be a felon because you lied to a police officer. That's a class 6 felony, right? And you're a danger to society and you can't own a gun anymore.
Wrong.
And then
I got something to say.
Wrong.
I got something to say about this.
I got it
something to say
wrong.
about
That's
this.
wrong.
hold on.
Don't
Hey.
Wait. Let me.
That's
Can I just
false
get through my?
information.
Let me get through my
Let's
whole
take
list
turns.
here
Let's
first.
take turns.
DMA. I'm going to stop you right there, DMA. Felons can possess firearms, but they are going to be
Black
any type
powder.
of firearm. It's an antique firearm. It's going to be a black powder pistol
Yep.
that holds 5 or 6 shots. So don't put out. I'm the firearm guy. I don't see anybody on this panel. Maybe Texas Sheepdog and Ninja. I've never seen you out there open carrying, so I'm not criticizing you for not doing it. But
Bro,
the
I
one
started
person
off- I
on here that
started off
knows about
most
guns
part.
is me. And I'm going to tell you right now, anything that's 1890, I think it's actually 1912 or lower. Like, I have a black powder pistol from 1892. I can openly carry that thing anywhere I want to go.
Hey,
Don't put out false information. Don't put out false information that felons cannot possess.
Okay, I'm not trying to put out false information. I'm open to
Solo,
being educated too,
what
and
if
I
it's
didn't.
a
I mean, I've heard of that
replica of an
before, but
old gun?
but
Can
most
you
people
carry
don't have
that?
guns that are prior 1912 or whatever you said, right? Like, if
Wait,
those are,
can you
and
own
keeps
a
are hard
replica,
things
a
to obtain.
modern
You can't just go
replica?
get
Do
buy
you
one,
know,
right?
Solo?
Armed fishermen Just look at my last arrest, brother. My last arrest, they took my gun and gave it to my lady while I was being handcuffed. You know, so I always.
I'm not criticizing you. I'm not. You could have it possessed. It's concealed. Whatever. In Texas,
open. It's constitutional carry.
Ninjas
Man,
always.
that's a whole other show.
They might take it and give it to somebody else, but you have the right to do it. I've just never seen you do an open carry audit. That's
Solo,
that's
can you hear me? Solo,
Can
you hear me? Solo,
You missed all the stuff. You missed all the stuff that I did with Sheepdog. So. Then, whenever they arrested him, and then they arrested at CJ.
I missed that.
Hey,
Arm
Fisherman, you've never seen me have a three-way, but that don't mean I ain't done it.
No, that's why.
I've seen it
with the chief's wife, right?
I've seen
Hey,
it.
no disrespect, man. No disrespect.
The two people that I've said, Texas Sheepdog and Ninja, I've just never seen you guys open carry. Because I know you guys are in a constitutional carry state. But for DMA to sit here and say that felons cannot possess a firearm, yes, they can possess a firearm.
Yeah, you're
and that's what I was going after.
I like to ask you a question, Solo. If it's a replica of the old firearm, do you know if that's legal?
It could be a
modern
replica
replica
of
an old.
The Second Amendment wasn't written so that we can have outdated muskets and shit. It was written so that we can have the same exact firepower that the government has. We don't need to be going on the defensive. Let's keep our muskets, or let's keep our AR-15s. We need to go on the offensive. I want to have tanks and grenades and fucking missile launchers and stuff. Well-regulated militias like the founders envisioned.
Hey guys, I appreciate you. I gotta go. Take care.
Yeah, all right, be easy,
hey, Brian.
Later.
Hey, check your email, Brian. Check your email. DMA.
They have a fucking nuke. Doesn't the government?
Hold on. Let me address DMA, and I'm going to get back to you, Joe Cool. DMA. I agree with you that people should be able to carry their firearms. If they do their time, they do their crime, they should be able to get their rights stored. Well, I'm going to get that right out the gate. I agree with that, but
I agree too.
There was actually a time back in the horse and buggy whenever a felon would be released from prison.
Let the Fisherman talk, man. Hey, he was right in the middle of saying something important.
I'm sorry, there's a lot.
That's it.
Damn.
You're done.
No.
Go ahead.
I let you speak. I was on mute. I'm sitting there waving like, don't. The key thing about it is that the way the laws are written right now, yes, felons can possess firearms. They have to be at least from like 1912 or earlier. They can be replicas. They can be originals. It doesn't matter. Long as they're black powdered, they're called antique firearms. Antique firearms. They're firearms. It might only be. It's not a Glock. It's not a 1911, even though the 1911 was created then. But the 1911 is not a black powder. The
check your local laws, right? Check your state laws, right?
Check your state laws. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not giving you legal advice. I'm just saying. You are allowed to possess black powdered pistols, muskets, whatever. If it's black powder, walk around with. I'm not telling you what to do. Look into your state. It's actually a federal law.
Right.
It's not even a state law. It's a federal law.
Right. So Direct D says definitely, obviously you want to check your state law, right? Because you may be clear under federal law, but then you're hemmed up by your state law. So you check your state laws. Right on. Okay. You got to disclaim that because there's people amongst our community that think that they can blame you for their own actions that they take as an adult. So
as a firearm.
Put that out there.
As a firearm.
Well, like he said, like in his state, they consider any combustible projectile launching device a firearm.
Where?
Right on. Yeah.
Arizona. Direct D said that.
In Arizona?
Hey, man.
Seriously?
Hey, man.
I'll put that disclaimer now because from my understanding, most of all states, anything that's a black powder pistol labeled from X, Y, or Z from said time, from like 1912 or 1911 or 1900s and later, that is considered a antique firearm.
So Solo, even through your knowledge, if I bought a modern replica of one of those old 1800 guns, I'd be breaking the law, yeah?
Depending
What
on your
state are
state.
you in?
breaking the law.
Are we
All
talking
right. I was
federal
just
law
curious. I'm gonna
or
Google it for
Federal
damn
law.
state
sure
law?
now with all of this, but
I'm
I
gonna
just
look
still want to know.
in like they were saying, look into your state laws, but most federal laws cover these specific firearms
Yeah,
because
I'll
they
be
are
out there
no
tomorrow.
longer.
And
From
some
what
Hey, I
go ahead.
can I have
some
something important to say that affects everybody here, and I'd like to say it. So can I do that? Okay, listen. God bless. It doesn't matter if I like you or not. God bless everybody that's here, that's taking their time out to be part of this. Everybody has their own each individual job to do, and nobody's job is more important than the other. You're all doing very important work, and that goes for Long Island. It goes for Madison. It goes for everybody else that took part in this tonight. That being said, Long Island said something that I have a problem with, but God bless him and the way his opinions. But here's the thing that I would say to Long Island or anybody that has that belief that people with mental illness or felons shouldn't have guns. Let me ask you something, Long Island, or anybody that thinks that. In the event of a situation where your life is fixing to get taken and I pull out a gun, are you going to do a criminal background check or a mental health evaluation on me? No. You're going to thank me for saving your life. So just remember that.
also
Who
there's some
When you
decides?
think you're not going to care about my mental health or my criminal background, you're going to want me to help you preserve your life. So there you go.
there,
All right,
there was
thank you.
all
And
there
God
was
bless
also
everybody.
there was also something during the debate that I wanted to touch on, like how DMA was going through kind of from the beginning, to the end. When they were speaking about firearms, he was like, I don't think that 5-year-old kids should have a firearm. And I've been shooting since I was 5, literally. And my first gun was a 20 gauge shotgun. And my uncle put it in my hands and he taught me how to responsibly handle a firearm. And that's what made it where I've been shooting for over 20 years and nobody's ever been harmed by me with a firearm. And maybe there's just there's not enough education on the situation.
That's the
Same. I
key.
was taught young. Yeah.
That's the key right there. I've got a 4-year-old that's been shooting my M&P 1522 long rifle, and she just sits there and pulls the trigger like it's nothing.
Yeah.
It's about the training and educating. Same way that we get educated on our ABCs. If we train our youth on firearms, on how to be a responsible, just like we want to be responsible in a lot of things. That's the training.
Yeah,
I think that was James.
Imagine if you gave someone a welding machine and they don't know how to weld. They could hurt themselves
Okay.
or somebody else. I mean, like it's all about the
That's
training.
logical. I think that was James that said if you go over the speed limit, you should get punished and all of that type of shit. Maybe even both of those cats. I would disagree with that as well, man. If I do 5 miles an hour over the speed limit, I don't owe you money. If I don't wear my seatbelt, I don't owe you money. I don't believe that. That's nonsense.
Victimless crime. But
Long Island said he said
I-
in the argument tonight, and he said it on the 100,000 subscriber celebration for Mr. Erie County. He said, "Well, if somebody's going 100 miles an hour in a school zone, like, dude, that's not even realistic. Who's going 100 miles an hour in a school zone? Like, if they made no such thing as a speed limit." Who's going to go 100 miles an hour in a speed zone? Like, think about it, man. Like, you got to give your fellow man some credit, right? So and he said, I'm against the drug war too. If you want to put something in your own body, then you should have the right to do that because we own ourselves. So like, if you say, okay, we're going to make heroin legal. You can't be like, oh, well, that means everyone's going to be a junkie. Like, would you say that about yourself? Like, the only reason that you're not shooting up is because there's a law against it. So, like, that's the thing is, like, people that are going to go, let's say there is somebody that's going to go 100 miles an hour in a school zone, it's already illegal. They're going to do it regardless if there's a law.
And that was something that was kind of contradicting to me that Long Island said. He said,
hold on. Go ahead and finish your statement.
Go ahead, Ninja.
He said, I believe that anybody should be able to put anything in their body that they want to. But, and I 100% agree with his sentiment that he had a family member that was hurt at 3 years old. She lost her ability to walk. I understand that. But in one moment, he's saying, you know, I don't believe this person should be able to have it in his body. And then the next moment it was, I believe everybody should be able to have whatever they want in their system. And
Well,
that's
obviously he's confused, so we not need to give too much stock into what he said on that.
Yeah. If I can just say one more thing, and I'll shut the front door. But I want to bring this up. I'm on the ATF website right now. This is 26 U.S. Code 5845 Section G. For purposes of the National Firearms Act, the term of anti-firearm is any firearm not intended for redesign or rimfire, something da-da-da-da. Long as it was manufactured in or before 1898, including matchlock, flintlock, percussion cap. Basically, this is going to be black powder. This is a federal law. And that's why I say
I don't think
the states might have some kind of law, but the federal government protects.
Says you can carry an old ass firearm that might blow your ass up when you use it. We'll keep that in mind. Assuming that it's not trumped by the state law, like in Arizona, we'll keep that in mind.
Even in Chicago, in Chicago, it wouldn't matter in Chicago. You walking around with a black powder rifle, by law, by federal law, you are protected.
I'll be that guy. I'll see if I can
Unfortunately,
find something from the
Chicago's not like
1800s.
Joe, we're all gonna pitch in, and we're gonna have you do a open carry black powder audit.
Yeah, so whether we find that everybody got a granddad that's 104, you still alive that we could talk to.
I'm gonna go to all the antique shops this week. Yo,
the only open carry that Joe does, the only open carry that Joe does is open carrying that blunt.
This is true.
That blunt is the only open carry. My guns.
Hey, the only open carry that Joe
panel who's never been on Auditing Erie County Live or on the channel yet to add up to the panel, and that is Island Audit Media.
Inland.
Hey, the only open carry.
Inland. That's what I said. I'm sorry, I meant.
Hey, the only open carry that Joe Cool does.
Welcome to the shit
is open carrying that blunt.
Ellen, I saw you and Rogue, I think it was, whoever you were with. He gave you time to talk, and you were spectacular.
Well, thanks, Joe. I appreciate that, and thanks for having me on, Erie. I really appreciate it.
You're not going to show us your face?
No.
It's
part of the shtick.
Bro. It's part of the stick.
Well, it's actually what I tell viewers and subscribers in my channel frequently is the primary reason I do not show my face and why I wear a mask when I go and do audits is fusion centers. Honestly, fusion centers are a great source of frustration for me, and I don't want to participate in violating my liberties, my fourth, by just giving them my face, which I know they're going to run a DOL. So I just do everything I can to sort of thumb my nose at their ability.
Ellen, good cop, bad cop was kind of what we started off with today. You got an opinion on that?
I'm assuming, Joe, you're talking about the earlier with Brian and Sean Paul.
I am, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think there are good people that are in that profession. I think the problem is that the profession itself, in every way that it has manifested itself to this point in time, is just a bridge too far. It's a bridge.
I think that's exactly what Erie said.
Yeah, it's a bridge over the River Kwai, if you will. If you want to take sort of a World War II reference to it, it's just got to be deconstructed and retooled. When you get the issue of what really all of us run across in one way or another when we're out in the field working, you see these rights violations happening in ways that they never ever should, and it's horrific and shocking that they can the field of work of policing is so uneducated.
What's your backgrounds, guys?
So yeah, I think it's a big problem.
You're really good with cops. I've seen you win them over and all of that stuff. But do you still believe insight, and do you tell them, but your job is still shit, man? You've been writing tickets all day. Is that something you have time to tell them, or should you tell them that?
I see you doing this mascot. That's great.
Fusion centers.
Tell them what you want.
Hey,
Tell them what you want.
I figured we
Right,
might as well
Fusion
go ahead and
Center.
cover our faces now, right?
I love it. So Joe, to answer your question, I don't. I, in my own way, take my own approach, which is basically, and this has nothing to do with anyone else. I want to be clear about that, preface it.
Okay.
The idea that I use, the approach that I take, is to play a very, very long game. I do public records requests,
I dig it.
like
I
a
dig it.
ton of those. And so I want to give these individuals as much of an opportunity to sort of hang themselves, if you
I
will.
like it.
I follow up, I do the records requests, and then I find the problems, and I just keep exacerbating that for them until they either choose to fix it or they continue and
Until they make a mistake.
well, and just like right now in Washington State, you know, we've got an election year like everywhere else. I've demonstrated to the public several times now, just very recently, what their government is looking like with a completely vacant set of buildings at the Capitol complex of Washington State's Capitol. And I'm starting to uncover what I think is a labor and industries economic and financial fraud. I believe that it's the records requests I'm collecting with the outputs generated are leading to demonstrating the government's severe corruption here financially. And so in that vein, that's what I'm trying to angle for, because I think what Texas Sheepdog was talking about earlier is so important. That
Which part?
The part where he was talking about how he goes about playing that game, the risk pool. I mean, you have to get to the foundation of the foundation.
Oh yeah, that shit he said about risk versus benefit. That was dope. Yeah.
And Texas Sheepdog taught me some of my best moments in life, man. Working with Sheepdog's a great guy. You know.
Thank you, man.
I gotta say, I've been down to Texas, and Sheepdog is one heck of a guy. Invites me in his house. Great guy, but I believe he's got to get out of here. You got something to say before you got to go?
Yeah. So I got to work in the morning. So God bless all you guys. Everybody has their job to do, and everything y'all do is important. So everybody has their angle. Keep doing what you do and keep pressing. And God bless all of you. And I got to work in the morning, so it's good seeing all you guys.
Love you, Sheepdog.
Oh yeah. One more thing. You know, Long Island came down to San Antonio. He didn't even call me. So I couldn't even hold on. I couldn't get him. I couldn't buy him dinner. I couldn't buy him a happy ending or nothing. So if you guys ever come down to San Antonio, you got to look me up. I'm very hospitable. So,
hey, I'll look you up. I'm in Texas a lot. I'll come
yeah,
to
if
see
you end up in Texas, you better meet Sheepdog, because he's nothing but love, yo.
God bless y'all, and stay safe and stay free.
Easy,
the man invited me in his house, said, "Hey, this is yours. Anything you need, anything you want."
But did he cook barbecue, Erie? That's just Texas. Did he make barbecue for you? Shitty fucking old Solo Yakka made me steak. Damn it, Solo made me steak.
Yes, sir. You know the deal, dog.
He gave me a sandwich.
You come to Florida, I'll show you that hospitality, dog. I'll show you the same thing in Texas, just down here.
Wait a minute. I was just in Florida, and I stopped over at James Mathison's house, and armed fisherman took off, man. What?
No. Nobody said you.
Some excuse about, my wife or somebody's sick, and I don't want to get you sick, and that was it. I didn't even get the shit.
No, I agree with that. I'll agree with that. The wife got sick, and I know exactly what day you're talking about. Yeah. I missed out, but that wasn't my fault. That was a family thing.
Only barbecue.
No barbecue.
I got you, dog. Dude, I'll come up to Audit. I'll come audit with you in here.
Come up to New York.
The only problem is that I can't carry my guns up there, motherfucker.
Just come to Texas, then. It's all right.
I'm just gonna bring my black powder, and we'll find out. We'll fuck around and find out with the black powder.
You can definitely bring your ARs up here. You just got to pin your magazines.
One thing that Erie can contest to, admit to is that like around here, the Texas guys, we might be all a little different. Like he was saying, we all have our own jobs, there's a lot of controversy with some of the Texas activists. But one thing that we do have is Southern hospitality. And if you come to my house or if you come to my state, then you got a place to stay. And it's the same when I go to San Antonio.
I know Ninja came out and met me as well. I don't know. I don't know how many hours away. We met in the middle. We had a good fucking time.
We don't have no legal weed around here, Joe Cool. So we got to be careful.
Just stop me though, baby.
But we do take care of each other around here. We at least do our best, man. And I wish that more activists would come down to Texas, because earlier it was a discussion about how Texas isn't so bad and New York's horrible. But really, have y'all heard of the Good Old Boy program?
Right. I'm fighting 3 tickets in cases and fucking possession of utility, a bowl. I forgot what they called it.
I'm gonna tell you guys what I learned from auditing and dealing with cops in different states. If your state is Republican run, you got some tyrant police, all right? They're fucking tyrants, and he ain't getting much accountability, all right?
New York and Chicago, the worst I've seen. Both blue states, man.
Alabama's the worst I've dealt with, in Louisiana.
Or big cities.
I bet you hate Alabama, motherfucker.
Big cities have big unions, so you got a point there.
Alabama drained me of like $15,000 before I wasn't.
Yeah, that was crazy. Oh yeah,
Colorado's a blue state, and the cops are really bad here.
Yeah, they're horrible, man. Right?
And New Mexico's a blue state, and cops are terrible there.
I mean, at least you can have weed, Fuck.
Yeah, at least we got mushrooms, all that shit here.
Y'all have a way to
Colorado was the first to legalize weed. Denver was the very first to legalize weed, then Colorado, and then we're also the first to legalize shrooms. They didn't legalize shrooms; they decriminalized shrooms.
Yeah.
Recreational here, yeah.
This is
it wasn't in the beginning there in Colorado. Recreational.
Well, no, it was only medical first, but we were the first to go recreational, and then California second. And we were the first to decriminalize mushrooms.
So DMA, would you rather weed or gun laws? Would you rather be able to have your free weed and no gun, or gun and no free weed?
I'd rather have my guns.
That's why I live in Texas.
It's more important. I like weed, but guns are more important.
I can live with a lot of things without, but my firearms that's what's going to keep tyranny at bay. It doesn't matter how you look at it. The Second Amendment was written for tyranny. It wasn't written for friggin' hunting or whatever anybody wants to say. I'm not saying anybody here.
They're talking us out of it though, right? Because we're sitting here talking about what we're allowed to do. If it's an 1800 pistol, if you're a felony left on side of the border, they're talking us out of that.
Joe Cool, I don't care if you've ever done a crime. I believe you should be able to hold a Glock, or you should be able to hold my AR-15 and do a video with me carrying an AR-15 going.
We might have one. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying. I'm saying for anybody out there that's done the crime. I'm just saying, if you've done a crime that restricts you, I'm not a believer that your rights should be restricted. Same way with, I have to get my voting rights back. You don't have to get your voting. You did the time. You got out. Your rights are reinstored, right?
Yeah,
period.
It sucks that you use that, right? But it's good.
That's how it should be. We all look at it. That's how we all here can sit here and look at the Constitution and say, "Hey, sure, you might have messed up." There might be an argument. There might be an argument for that murderer that gets out on a technicality or something. There might be an argument for that. There might be, but anybody that has never been, no person that's ever been that did something like that is going to ever probably get out of jail. You know what I mean?
Hey, I got a question here for our newest member to the panel, Mr. Christopher Ruff. Is there any good cops?
For who, me?
No, for D. Absolutely, D. Tell him.
Unicorn?
Yeah, unicorn, man.
And rainbow. Unicorns and
Even those unicorns that we meet, those unicorns are like, oh yeah, I respect your right, and you're cool, and I'm not gonna. 15 minutes later, they're pulling somebody over for a victimless crime.
I see it like that.
Christopher
Man.
Ruff, what do you think,
Right.
man? Is there such thing as good cops?
Tell us your experience with good cops.
Yeah, we want to know all your stories about.
Yes,
good cops.
surely you have a bunch of them.
Yeah, you
Just
must.
just off the top. Don't go
Off
too
the
crazy.
top, half a dozen or so.
I mean, I know
good
for sure Christopher Ruff runs into nothing except for good cops all the time out there.
Well, mostly, like 99%.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got to have some stories.
Go ahead, tell us about them all.
I want to hear about how many good cops did you meet? Can you count them on one hand?
Yeah. This one time I was driving to somewhere and I got a flat tire, right? Over, and he helped me change my tire, dude. It was amazing. Crazy. This other time I ran out of gas. Wouldn't you know it? A friendly police officer pulled over.
Well, he did not do you a nut. He didn't ask you.
And he gave you $20 for some gas, didn't he? Yeah. He was like, dude, I got you, bro. Here's some $20. We'll go together to get the gas, and they'll
But I'm
drive
gonna
you
need
back.
to see your identification first. Where you going? Where you coming from? That first. Though.
I got a funny story about a cop changing a tire. I was doing an audit at a library in Lackawanna, and the cop showed up for me filming in the library. And after it's all said and done, I follow them outside. A lady gets in an accident, slams into this thing, knocks her tire flat as flat can be. The cops walk over there, and you see one on the radio, and he's like, all right. Next thing you know, he's changing the tire, and I'm like thinking to myself, you know what conversation just happened there? The captain or the chief's like, is he still filming you? And he's like, yep. He's like, yep. He goes, all right, change that fucking tire. They want the good publicity. That's about it.
Yeah, it's a good part of the job.
Then I had to show the cops how to change the tire because they couldn't get it. They couldn't get the tire out. They couldn't figure out where to put the jack.
They didn't know.
And welcome in,
That's
Chris.
on the frame.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks,
your
Chris.
work.
Those were some inspirational stories of good cops.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you
So
for
pretty
clarifying. I
much
was
if you're
thinking all
screwed-
cops were shitty. I don't think that anymore. Some will change your tire. Thank you.
So
you
yeah,
guys are
pretty
all
much
full of
as
shit.
long as you're screwed on the side of the road, they'll come and help.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Right. And
You
I've
ain't
had
got
police
nowhere to
officers.
go, bro. They
There's been
got you. You're already
Like,
stuck.
hey,
dude.
where
You're
you
stuck
going?
like Chuck.
Where are you coming from?
There's
Oh,
been
what was
very
your
few
friend's
times
name?
where there's been actually police officers that have helped me. There's one time I was in with my ex-girlfriend. We were stranded on I-25. Her car took a shit in the middle of the road, and the cop. I mean, it was pretty dangerous. The cop came with his bumper and like plowed us off to the side of the
Very
road.
good.
Like, totally, like got us off. Like that was the only time that a cop actually helped us. But like I've actually literally needed police assistance dozens of times in my life, and I've called 911. And I've had one time specifically, I had my apartment was getting broken into while I was there. The guy didn't know that I was there. And I called the police, like, dude, someone's breaking into my apartment. And like I flipped on the switch in the bedroom, and then I was on the first floor, and he took off, right? Because he had my window like open, right? He took off, right? Cops come. This is actually in Inglewood, and they're like, you know, doing their investigation. I was like, yeah, man, the door was locked, or the window was locked, but you know, he opened it up, and the cop was like, hey, you know what? There's no way this window could slide open if it's locked, and we're gonna take handprints on this handprint that's right here, and if it comes back as yours, we're coming back and we're filing felony charges on you, filing a false report. And like I'm like, dude, what? Like I'm literally the victim here, and this is how you guys are acting. And so like I filed a complaint in court. This was like years ago, like 15 years ago, before YouTube was even really big. But like the thing is about like all cops are all cops bad? And like this is a reiteration, but I'll just agree with Mr. Erie County here. And like I've said this a bunch of times before, but not all cops are bad individuals, right? Like I've said a bunch of times, my cousin's a police officer, and I love my cousin. I really do. I love him a lot. I'm about to go see him here in a little bit, but I would like him better if he quit his job. And so just because you're not like, you know, punching a handcuffed woman in the face doesn't mean you're a good cop, because all cops have to enforce these unconstitutional laws. I don't know how many unconstitutional laws are in your state, but in my state, there's a bunch, and I've seen a bunch all over in other states.
It would seem
have to
impossible.
enforce them, right?
They don't.
What
not only
makes
that,
you a good person would be your discernment. If you hand it over to another person, you cannot even claim to be a good guy. I gotta ask that guy if you're a good guy because you've given him your morals and values and shit.
Hey,
Well, I
and not
feel
only
like
that,
DMA.
there's immoral laws, right? Like the drug war, right? Like they just legalized weed. Now cops, they don't do anything here in Colorado, but if they legalize it or if they illegalize it again tomorrow, those same cops would be locking you in a cage for being in possession of a plant. And then
And
they're
I
order
think some
followers.
people
And
still call
following
them good
orders isn't
cops.
an excuse, man. Like it was an excuse in Germany in World War II, and it's not an excuse
Nuremberg.
today. You're a person first, and then you're a cop second. And people are like, oh well, they
Yeah.
can't lose their 401k, and they got to feed their family. Well, just like auditing Erie County said, man, well, pick a different profession. It's not gonna, infringe on people's rights and just be a tyrant and lock people in cages for victimless crimes.
Become a James Madison.
I feel
Become
like
a James
Switch it up.
Madison.
Switch it up.
I
Hey,
feel like
I was
DMA,
just about to say the same thing. I'm like, I'm like, I know James Madison. He's from, he's right in my neck of woods. He actually lives, and I'm not going to disclose that, but he lives in my neck of the woods where I used to live. And I'm telling you, like, if I ever met him as a cop, as a police officer, I have my hesitations. But if, when they take that friggin' that costume off, there are some. I actually met one in Clearwater. And I told the guy,
James, man, has that fucking sheep mentality. He believes that the reason you can do this is because the case law says you can. Even James has that shit. All of us has that residue, bro, in my opinion.
There's that residue. There is a residue.
I feel like
I
if you
agree with you.
interject yourself into someone's personal life, then it's a precursor to the R word that I'm not going to say on here that ends with PE. And if you're forcing yourself into a situation, what happens when you call the cops every time? They stick their foot in the door when you try to close it.
Nothing.
It's
well, no, we go to
If
jail.
you call a cop, they'll arrest you
battery.
for misuse of a 911 when you be like, hey, I got some tyrant that won't let me close my door. He's got his foot. That's misuse of 911. You'll catch a charge for calling the cop on the cop.
Yep.
Guys, let's be honest. James Madison, a little short redhead, that motherfucker was a tyrant.
Right, all feelings up in that
problem child.
We love you, James.
James, I'm sorry.
We love you, bro.
Dude, I'm not. I can't say that because.
Just admit it.
Hold on. Listen to a guy that actually went to high school with this guy.
As a guy from Florida,
I went to high school.
You went to high school with him? I didn't know that.
I went to high school with this guy, and it wasn't. There weren't those red flags as I knew him going through high school.
Like the red hair.
And not like his hair. Like there were those red flags, but the guy, like, really cool. But in most people don't know, I ran into a cop open carrying that I'd known for 20 plus years. Played
That's
baseball.
what I thought you were talking about.
No, that's a different guy. James Madison is not the guy that pulled the gun on me.
No, you went to. No, I saw another
video.
Like, dude,
another
I know
video.
you. I think you said I went to school with you. Blah blah blah. I'm so and so. You're so and so. I thought you were him. You went to school with James too, man.
I didn't, and I don't put that. Hopefully, hey, delete that part of the video. I don't consent, but anyway, like
permanent.
A lot of these people that I'm intertwined with, I kind of had a backstory with that I knew before they all became what they were. That's the crazy thing about this, dude. I was playing baseball with some of these people. We were doing the same things and everything, and here we are 30 years later. I'm pushing 45. Most people don't know that. I'm almost 45 years old. And only for the last 5 to 10 years, or actually 7 years, has that switched kind of turn. I used to be a bootlegger. I love sucking the boot.
Not hard to believe,
you boot sucker.
I'm going to say it right now. I'll be honest and transparent. I used to suck the boot about 7 years ago. I was like, whatever I got to do is suck the boot to get out of this shit. But now
I think
I'm
you
like,
was sucking some boot. Fuck that. When you and Big Nick was going at it on John Felix, he wouldn't let me up because he knew I was gonna snap and jump on your ass. I think you was sucking some boots that day, bro.
who on John Felix?
Yeah,
Hell fucking no, dude. Get the
yeah,
fuck
I'm
out
pretty
of
sure
here with
you was
that
talking
bullshit.
about I don't know, we need the military or we need the cops or something. I wish I could fucking remember.
No. I never said I need the military. We'll run that back, dog. We'll run that back. I'll run it back. Dog, I didn't, nothing I said on there. The one thing I had a problem with, and I told you this just like we said in that chat, was that the fact that I posted a picture of me holding a gun it was a
not
sign.
that.
It was a sign, and then everything spun out of control, and then he was like, he called me racist. Sorry. He called me that R word, and I was like, I was the one that made the post. He's like, "Oh, you can't be that R word."
Nick, man?
If you don't mind me asking, what is your ethnicity? What are you?
I'm Irish. My mother, she's full blood Irish. My father, he was African. Well, we can call him black and Japanese. My mom met a guy from the Vietnam War. Or part of Vietnam or something, and I don't know how the whole thing fucking worked. Vietnam War, he came back, he met my mom, they hooked up, and here I am today.
They're saying blackanese in the chats.
I don't like people saying that, that mute word, but I'm mixed with, but that's what our world's coming to, is that there's not one. Start looking at people not by the color of the skin, by the content of the character. That was like, as crazy as it is like what, like 50 years ago, 60 years ago when Martin Luther King said that, it still resonates and it has more meaning today than it does when he said it then.
And I don't think there's nothing but mutts.
We're all different. Everybody's different.
Everybody's really. I don't think that there's a purebred anything anymore, really.
And to boot, just to put context into it, Japanese, when they came to America, they were there was all types of friggin' laws, and they were friggin' slaves. We were slaves as Japanese. We were slaves as Irish. We were slaves as black people. All these things, and I'm wrapped up in 3 of all of them. And here I am today, fighting for the rights of all, and not by the color of my skin. I've never
asked Inland something, and it's nothing to do with what we were talking about. Inland is the working man a slave to the government?
If you're not working for yourself, you're a slave.
Charlie Dog, by the way, Erie.
You're a slave either way, actually.
That's one of my
taxes,
homies in the chat. He's good people.
Who's paying taxes, dog?
hey, man, hey, more power to you, bro.
I'm not saying I'm not paying taxes. I'm just saying who's paying taxes. Think about that.
Yeah, I was thinking along.
It's just a joke.
Too, man.
It's just hypothetical. You know what I mean? This is not for real, government. If you're watching, I'm just saying, like, really, do we really need to pay taxes? What are we paying taxes for?
I believe
if I'm wrong, the wars, like,
who
if
would
you want to
build
have,
the
if you want to have
roads?
perpetuating endless war, then you have to have a federal income tax, right?
Who would build the roads?
We never had
we
income
need
tax.
to steal your
Who
money.
will build the roads? It's like saying, oh, who will build the roads? It's like saying, well, without slaves, who will pick the cotton, right? I mean,
that's right. Same shit.
Hold on. Time out. Joe Cool, do you have a state tax?
Yeah.
You have a state tax, right?
Yeah.
DMA,
yes.
Do you have a state tax?
Yeah.
Ninja, do you have a state tax?
No.
Did you know that Florida doesn't have a state tax, and our roads are probably better than most years?
Oh, trust. I've already gone from Alabama.
I don't know. I'm just saying. I pay my federal fucking income tax, but I don't have a state tax. And for at least 3. I don't know about everybody else, but at least the 3 that I can see, I know y'all are paying a state tax. And for what? Are your roads still shit? Are you still dealing with bullshit?
They come up with ways to spend the money, right? Like they have all these like executive positions, all these directors.
I don't care.
They have to come up with it. No, I'm saying like they have to justify spending it. Like in libraries here in Colorado, they have like these positions: patron experience supervisor.
What'd you say,
Like,
Chris?
who needs that?
I said, fuck your guys' taxes. Taxes are for pussies. I don't pay taxes. I hope the government's listening. Suck my dick. You know what I'm saying?
Nothing's in your name, huh?
Dude, I'm a 1099er, dude. I'm a 1099er right now, bro. I can't be saying that
there,
shit.
Chris. I'm right there where nothing's almost in my. There's almost nothing in my name.
That's so funny. But that's what I'm saying.
Arm Fisherman, you're right, dude. I learned.
I get paying some tax to make sure that things still function. You know, roads need to get paved. This, and the third. But if you've been watching my channel, I've been covering friggin' nothing but council meetings, and that's paying my fucking bills. But I'm covering fucking corrupt fucking politicians, and I'm like, how come the FBI is not? If I was to steal 20,000, let's say I didn't pay my tax. Not saying I'm doing or not. I'm just saying if I didn't pay my taxes, right, and I got $30,000 in debt with the IRS, do you think they'd be pounding on my door?
Yeah, well, when they...
Exactly. That's the thing.
It doesn't even take that much. I was late on my taxes last year, $1,500, and they were sending letters to my house.
but a politician fucking does that shit, and it's like we don't know nothing. Don't hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil, and that's what they're.
I just read a stat that they mostly go after millionaires as opposed to regular people. It looked like both of you would disagree with that.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said last year, I was late for like a month because the person that I hired to do my taxes completely fucked me over, and so I had to hire a new person, so I was late.
Yeah.
And they were still sending me letters from the IRS saying like, "Oh, if you don't give us this $1,500, we're gonna shut down your income." And I'm like,
you know what's funny about that, bro? Is like, okay, so if you're late paying them the money that you owe them, but what about all the people that didn't file taxes that had money owed to them?
And that's just full transparency.
They're not like just handing out refunds. Like they already know who owes what and who doesn't owe what. But like you have to still file it yourself and figure it out yourself. So why shouldn't they just be like mailing out checks randomly to people that they owe money to? They don't do that.
Figure out the tax system and you don't have to pay any taxes. I ran a landscape company for 3 years. I didn't file or pay a dime to the federal or state government in taxes. You know why? Because my company and I never profited. I filed what's called a profit and loss sheet and paid $75 to have it checked into, you know, whatever government books they put that shit in, but I didn't pay any fucking taxes.
That's direct D, isn't that?
It sure is.
Oh my God, dude. I'm so glad to hear your voice, man, dude. I was so worried about you for like 3 months, dude.
I gotta worry about direct D. That guy's a rhino. Fucker's
Do you live under a rock? You couldn't find him in 3 months?
I seen his stuff, but you know, he wasn't out there doing his normal stuff, and I was just like, man, I thought they had you under some kind of. I thought you were like, off the grid type of stuff, dude. And that's how I felt. I thought he was off the grid, dead ass. I'm gonna be real. I thought you were.
Dude, I live on a 40-acre ranch. With no city power. I don't have an address. I don't have city water.
Very good, very good. Yeah.
That's the way to do it, man. That's how Adam Kokesh does it too.
No, don't get me wrong, man. I was more concerned that they were really coming out. I mean, I'm sure they're still coming after you, but I'm just like, you know, I thought they were coming really after you. Like we're talking like JFK type of coming after you.
Well, I don't know. I skipped town, so they told me to report to jail, and I told them to suck it easy.
Suck these nuts.
But yeah, I have to agree with armed fishermen.
Hey.
You can literally close your eyes and drive across the state lines from Alabama to Florida, and you can only you can tell where you're at, what state you're in, because all of a sudden the road goes from to like smooth. Like, oh, I'm in Florida.
And that's in don't get me wrong, a lot of places don't have the tourism that Florida has. That's where we get all our money, is basically through tourism, through the, you know, as you come in, people pay a state tax, you know, whether it's 7%, some places are 6.5% still, but then you go into some state or parts that are 7.5%. So it varies between 6.5% and 7%, but that's just on shit you buy. That's just on shit you buy.
Areas are expensive. Every restaurant, all of them shits along the beach and all of that shit. That shit is outrageously expensive.
Right. It gets expensive. The price of food goes up, but your sales tax stays the same. You know, and that's pretty much our state taxes at sales. But because we have so much tourism, that sales tax that we endure, whether it's 7%, 7.5%, whatever it is, that's what generates all our money. That's why Orlando don't give a fuck. They're like, oh, 7% sales tax, whatever. Just sales tax. Whatever you buy, 7%.
You guys want to know about tax? You come to New York, all right?
No, I'm good. Good.
No.
But that's
Charlie Dog flying auditor was good, guys.
Well, hey guys, I've been following all of your channels. Auditing Erie County, good for you guys. You've made the national press. DMA, you've been kicking ass and taking names. And the armed fishermen, dude, I had a place down in Florida until a couple months ago. Had a partner that passed away, so we moved back. But I've been in Florida off and on over the decades. And Chris, KO, bro. I got to tell you guys, you know, I'm the old guy in the bunch, and I've carried a gun for 40 plus
I don't know. Joe's pretty up there.
Joe's up there, man.
Who is up there?
Joe.
81
how old are you?
years old.
Joe.
81 years old, bro.
You ain't got shit on Joe.
Joe,
You ain't
you're
got shit on
81.
Joe.
No,
Stop
he's
it.
not.
I didn't think so.
He's close
Let
to
me
that,
tell you,
though.
I'm in my 60s. I'll just
Tell
put it to you
him
like
how
that.
old you are, Joe.
57 this year.
You
Oh,
ain't
you're a young guy.
57,
You ain't
bro.
57.
I will
young
be
guy.
this year. Yeah, true story.
Young guy.
No, I thought you were
I'm gonna need to
72.
see
Is
some
that a lie?
ID. I'm gonna need to see some ID.
Oh, look, guys, I
I
got
thought
to
he was
tell you what.
72.
You know, age is just a number. And all you guys have made
He's
an
just having
impact.
fun, bro.
And I've watched all of your channels. And one of the things that I kind of avoided, I'm going overseas, so I can't get arrested because where I'm headed, no misdemeanors, no felonies, or they won't let me in the country.
While somebody
Who's echoing?
backgrounds, mute your mics or something. Somebody got some echo going.
But News Now Ninja, you're out of Texas, right?
Charlie, mute up. See if that's
Yeah,
you.
I'm out of the West Texas area, and we know what's going on here in Texas. I live in an area where if any of y'all saw that mud flap incident where
Somebody's echoing.
Sheriff pulled a gun on a guy for having too short of mud flaps. Did any
I
of
think
you?
I
her
did.
name?
I think I
What's
did.
her
Yeah.
name?
Well, it's out of Tom Green County. I live in the area, and I've got some stuff brewing that I'm going to be dropping. And one of the things, I've got to do things behind the scenes just because of all the licenses and shit I hold. But I just wanted to pop in here and say, look, guys, you know, I was in the military for years. I've carried a gun. I was a canine dude. I was a narcotics guy. And I remember early on in my career, this is when MTV was kicking off. That tells you how old I am. And I remember a guy coming on one day on the base, and he and I were buds. And he came on with a lot of herb. And I had a drug dog. And I remember when my dog was hitting on his truck like no tomorrow. I said, you're cool. Head on out. You know? And then later on, we'd go do our thing off duty. So, you know, in terms of the Leos today, the younger guys, some of these guys don't know their ass from a hole in the ground. I've got a criminal justice degree. And there's an attorney here in Texas called CJ Grisham. You may or may not know him.
Yeah.
He's a great guy. He's a intel guy, retired 20 plus years for sergeant. And I'm going to be dropping a video on his stuff because, here I'm an older guy. I'm older than all you guys. I'm thinking about getting my law degree because there's a lot of need for civil rights attorneys. And in Florida, there's that young gal. She's out of the Daytona area. Oh, my mind just went blank. She came from Michigan, and she's a fireball. You know who I'm talking about, Soliaker? I can't remember her name. Catherine McHenry. That's her name.
Catherine. Yep, I was gonna say Catherine. I don't remember her last name, but she had a case, and she's a lawyer, and I was on a live stream with her.
She is good, but what I'm finding that's lacking here within the community is if there's any of you guys that have been in the military at one time. I'm a disabled vet, so there's a lot of programs available to us vets that will allow you to get an education when it would even allow you to chase your law degrees. And you can even go as far as getting master's degrees in specific areas of law that you don't need to be an attorney, but you can learn what they know. So when you quote Bible verse, etc., you're speaking from a position of, I got that, know that, what have you. So if you got vet friends, send them over to my channel. I'm getting ready to drop something on the education side that'll help them. But I just want to say I appreciate every one of you guys that are on this feed. Erie County, I've been following you, dude. When I'm a type A personality. When I hear shit going on with Soliaker and with Chris and what's going on with DMA, I get roughed up because I'm a type A. I'm a guy that goes into the fray. I don't back off. And my blood pressure peaks because.
What are you saying? Are you saying when you get motivated by seeing what they did, you go out there and harass? Well, not literally, but give them hell.
No, what I do is see there's a difference. When I'm a pilot, I have an airplane. So when you go out and do what you've got to do, number one, you got to think: do I've got the money to cover my ass, or I need to go out and eBay? There's a lot of guys that I know that go out and say, "Please, please, give me money." I know two guys personally. One's out in South Florida. He's a doctor. He's down in South Florida, Dr. Eric. Oh, my mind just went blank. You might know him, Soliaker. But he's been suing a county.
McDonough.
McDonough.
Eric
I've talked to Eric a couple of times.
I know Eric McDonough. I know.
Eric's dropped over $100,000 plus in legal fees.
You got to know when to bank left and bank right.
Well, you really do. And see, here's the problem that I observe from an older guy's position. I believe in a checklist. Look, I'm one of the few guys that you'll ever know that actually was able to be around nuclear weapons. I actually had to secure the nuclear payloads on aircraft and all that. It's kind of a different deal. It's kind of cool when you see it. Well, I was 20-something years old. But you got to know when to fold them and when to go in intelligently.
Military, cop, pilot, lawyer. I got to watch you to no fucking end, it looks like. Nuclear bombs. I got to watch you, bro.
The angry vet and I, Kevin, are really good friends. I spent about 2 weeks with the guy. He and I are close. The man out of the PA, Lincoln Leonidas out of PA, who was a vet that got stabbed. I'm a proponent for the vets that have been. Say again?
Lincoln Square Leonard.
Absolutely. There's a lot of vets that have been badly hurt. There's a guy in Florida, Blind Justice.
That's my man's, yeah.
I'm gonna tell you, I know. I've talked to the guy hours. He's been trashed badly as a vet. Oh yeah. And what I'm discovering is where I'm a part of the guy. Look, I've got a place south of where I live, some acreage on the border. So I see the many tens of thousands of people that cross over. And I'm from the school. I'm a first generation immigrant on my mother's side. So I'm the first generation from Brazil. She came over here legally. And what I've discovered is I've been around the world for 4+ decades. I've traveled to many countries. And what I've discovered is we're one of the few countries that you don't get hemmed up big time. I flew into China one night in Beijing, huge, massive airport. They pulled me for my name and held me for 2 hours saying someone else came through Beijing with my name. And that's like, the odds of that are slim to none. I had a top secret.
So what do you think about the immigrants here? You think they get a shitty deal? They do well? Where were you going with the
Well, I gotta
immigrant
look.
shit?
Here, you're talking to a guy that knows.
I'm gonna
If
stab you if you tell me about
if
fuck.
if you don't come into the country legally, get the fuck out. I'm sorry. You know, and you know, some people might disagree, but I've got a place on the border. You don't see what I've seen. I've been there, done that, got the t-shirts to prove it. And I've been around the world, and we're the only country that says open our arms, take advantage. Every one of you guys that are on this panel tonight, whether you pay taxes or not, is irrelevant. You're giving your money to support somebody, and they're taken from you and your family and your kids.
They just talked about taking down the Statue of Liberty. You kidding me?
Well,
Biden just said that. That was a Biden administrator thing. But I'm not trying to get political on here. I'm just
I won't get political, but I'm the type of guy. I've defended the Constitution. I've been there, done that, got the t-shirts to prove it. And I've got a lot of friends that are combat vets. I'm an older guy. Some of these guys are Iraq, Afghanistan. They've got a raw deal, and they're getting shit on because these guys that are coming
most of these
border,
cats coming over here, asylum seekers. We call them illegals, but most of them are coming over here on asylum.
No, look, there's asylum seekers, and there's another terminology. Asylum seeker. Here's the problem. I live in an area, and I'm not going to really disclose it, but I have a guy that runs the South Texas border and the aviation side. I've got an aircraft that's called a Velocity that all the drug cartel, they use that type of a setup because you can't see, it's a composite. The only metal on it's the engine and the firewall. So when they shoot it.
All right. So you're saying that it's them who those immigrants are bringing in drugs is what you're saying.
You know who the majority of the country's coming in? Chinese.
Okay, but I was talking about the ones at this border that's giving you shit. Those are not Chinese. Most of them are asylum seekers, I thought. Then you switch to yes, but this is what the cartel does. Are you trying to make a linkage to most of the people that come over here illegally and asylum seekers work for the cartel? Why'd you bring it up?
I've never said that. I said
okay. You brought cartel up right afterward.
I said
get it off. We're going too far political because we were all good with the friggin'. We were all good. Like I'm not trying to friggin' take away from you. I'm really not trying to say that at all. I think we're switching. I understand what's going on. Some people see it and. I think we're getting a little off base.
Well, I got 20 wings from Wingstop, and I got to give a quick shout out to everybody before I get out of here and eat these chicken wings. Much love to Joe Cool, who made me feel short, even though I'm 6'2". I loved working with you, Joe, and it was even more chill that we went and did some post office audits, and you just hung out and smoked in the parking lot while I did it. Much love to Charlie Dog, man. I know most of y'all don't know him, and if y'all don't know who Charlie Dog is here in the chat, get over there and subscribe to him, man. He just got attacked by some cops, and we haven't put the video out yet, but they literally beat the shit out of him until he cried on a live stream and then made fun of him for crying. They made fun of him for crying and then let him go with no charges. And this is about to be a big story here in Texas. Charlie Dog, y'all get over there and show support, man. He's a smaller channel, but he's doing great work.
Charlie, make sure your YouTube's up, Charlie.
I appreciate you, Erie, for having me up here tonight, man, and listening to everybody go through all their venting. I love that. Yeah. DMA, you're one of my favorite channels out there. The Mile High motherfucker, you know I love you. One day we're going to get Mile High together. Armed Fisherman, stay up for that Second Amendment, brother, dude. You're the best Second Amendment, in my opinion, that's out on the internet. And so I appreciate you standing out there and doing it. Even though you can only do it while you're fishing, come to Texas and let's do it while we're not fishing. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And Enlin, thank you so much for jumping on here and explaining, you know, the plane thing and your opinions. I respect everybody's opinions, and I hope, you know, like we were saying earlier, together we could make a difference no matter our differences with each other if we work together. And so I appreciate all of y'all, and you be peaceful, and I'm gonna eat some chicken wings.
Chicken wings.
Maybe one day you can come up to Buffalo and get some real wings.
Shit, I already fly, baby. Y'all be peaceful.
See ya.
You too. All right, I was hoping that was him with the background. Am I a shitty guy for all and bring? I feel like I'm a horrible dude for always bringing up the controversial shit, right?
Nobody
I may be
on
because
here.
all right.
No.
I do.
nobody
Fuck
here's
that.
shitty.
I don't feel we get along with that peaceful, lovey-dovey. Everybody's great, telling about themselves. I'm getting angry inside. Personally, I don't give a fuck about your fucking victories and all of that shit, man. Maybe I'm a bit of a dick. The motherfuckers up here too long-winded, in my fucking opinion. Too much fucking hand-holding and rubbing niggas' nuts, in my opinion. Maybe I am a bad guy.
That's why we bring you up.
Joe, you're not a bad guy. That's why what I was witnessing, I was like, man, this is getting a little. It got too political because
I'm not scared of politics, man. I'm a man. I don't fear shit.
Hey, Joe, I know you don't. I had you at my house. I know you don't. We never talk politics, no bullshit. Whether I'm right leaning, we never talk. We were talking
but you could talk to me about fucking racism, politics, religion. I'm not scared. I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna test your theories, and men don't fear that shit.
I don't fear it either. But when you were in my house, it wouldn't. I don't want to bring that into this. This isn't what this chat is about.
Why not? We ain't got to talk about that shit now, but why the fuck not? It ain't nothing to fear, man. I think niggas been trained. We don't talk about religion and politics, man. Don't nobody train me.
Joe, me and you, we can talk about this all day. But this is a podcast, dog. I don't think.
I'll leave it alone. Fuck that. Erie would have told me it's his fucking podcast.
Hey, Erie, if you want to talk about it, we can talk about it. But
no, we're done now. But I'm saying Erie interrupted me and said, "Joe, let's not talk about that shit." I honor that shit, man. But if I'm talking to that dude about that shit, you get uncomfortable. Don't tell me, "Hey, we're talking politics." Let Erie make that fucking call. I asked them questions for a reason.
All right, then that's my fault. That's my fault.
I got a pretty good policy on this channel. Let Joe Cool rip.
I'm gonna own up to it. Hey, Joe, I'm sorry because I didn't want to make this. What was this all about?
It was about good cop, bad cop, and LIA. He walked that line too well to me. I think he should have been held fucking harder to the fire, which is why I got down. Excuse me, why I was angry. And damn motherfuckers got up here and didn't talk about good cop, bad cop. They talked about all the bad cops in their fucking neighborhoods, and I did this and that, and fucking all the fire was gone, and which is why I'm being a brat now and angry and shit.
It's okay. I love you, man. That's why I love your energy. You know I love your energy, man. Dude, you set my house. I loved your energy the whole time. But, not even but. I'm not even going to put the but in there. I love your energy, and you always have.
I love you back.
When me and you were together, yes, let free, say whatever you want to say. But that's, and once again, I just fucked up and said but again. But I always say, on some of these podcasts, I don't to be honest, whatever comes across the border, I know what they're looking for. But I also seen some other side saying something else. And that's why I have a problem with let's not talk about that because
fuck that, nigga. No, let's do it.
What you want to talk about?
Let's talk about. Tell me what these shitty what's these some
Joe
of these
Biden,
things these people are coming over here. I'll
the...
start with it. Fuck Biden. I'll start with it. These are the same arguments when the fucking Irish came over here. Any immigrant for that matter. These are the same arguments. Motherfucker told no Irish allowed, no dogs allowed. These no motherfuckers Japanese still robbing all of that. These same fucking arguments, bro. And I'm hearing them again. I wish that someone was there to make their life easier when they came. I wish someone. I don't want the crime and drug dealer neither, but I can't punish good motherfuckers just trying to better themselves.
Hold on. Now you said a lot of things, and we got to break it down one by one.
All right.
The first part is coming over here, and you're like, oh, we want to bring them in. I agree with you. I want people to come here that better America. 100%. Can we agree on that?
I don't even like America, but for the sake of argument, I guess.
Regardless,
I don't like that American shit. I think it's mob mentality. I think it leads to us kicking niggas out the border and not having a hand when people need it. That's just me, but continue.
But I'm saying, hey, yes, let's bring in the weak and the ones that want a better life, right?
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yes,
I agree with that. I agree with it.
Yeah.
I want people to have a better life because none of us or whoever, the ones that live in America, we're going to call America as a whole, none of us are leaving to go to friggin' Mexico. None of us are leaving to go to Costa Rica.
All right. You want the good guys to come in here and have a hand up, but
there's a lot of great things that America, we're going to say as a whole. I'm not saying, I'm just generalizing as a whole, as America. Most people want to come to America because there's something here for the American dream, or like the so-called American dream. But I'm putting quotations, American dream, right?
All right. Okay, I'm okay with
All
that.
right.
Yeah.
You agree? People, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
Right. But whenever you have some people saying, oh, the same Statue of Liberty that said, give us your wheat, your hope, bring all these people, and they want to tear it down.
Your huddled masses, yeah.
And it's the same thing whenever they wanted to take down, whether you agree with it, the civil rights, whether it's Ulysses S. Grant or all the statutes and all the shit.
Yeah.
They want to take down those statutes, and now they're wanting to take a statute down that was built by somebody else that said, hey, bring us your home, bring your weak and we're going to take you in because we care about you. Even though there was racism attached to it. There was racism attached to the Japanese, to the friggin' Irish, to Europeans, I'm not saying there's racism now. But
we were talking about immigrants coming across the border fucking up shit, but we've just drifted a little bit.
But I'm not trying to get into that, but that's the same principle, is that you've got somebody, we did it, I can't even remember, I think it was like 18 something that they built the Statue of Liberty. If somebody can tell me the year, please put it in the chat, whatever. But I think it was somewhere in the 1800s. They built the Statue of Liberty.
Sorry, Charlie.
Saying we want you, and now our country's gotten to a point where we're like, hey, kick everybody out. We don't like this. Take down the Statue of Liberty. Which side do you want? It doesn't. None of it makes sense. None of it. And the one thing about what I feel that we should all hope for is just leave me the fuck alone.
Well, that's not what they're doing to the immigrants, so we can get off of that shit if you don't want to talk about it.
Hold on, I want to jump in real quick. So, here's my opinion. So, but it's like kind of like a double-edged sword, right? So, to me, okay, as I believe, as a libertarian, that I own myself, right? So that anyone who uses force and coercion against me is wrong, unless somebody else is initiating force on you. So, basically, borders are really just an arbitrary line that's drawn on a map. Now, if I live in the United States and I have somebody from Mexico who wants to come visit me on my own property that I own, but the government is saying, no, you can't cross this line that we wrote. So
that's a very good point.
They can't come visit you on your own property. The only real borders that should exist in reality are those of private property. But the only way that we could get to that point is if literally we abolish government, right? And we become a truly free voluntary society, which we are capable of doing. It's just that we got to get rid of all this brainwashing, right? It's like an onion. You got to peel the layers off layer by layer, because we've been programmed and conditioned our entire lives since we're kids. And you go to school and you pledge allegiance to the United States of America, right? And it's like this patriotism bullshit.
You get a job,
Patriotism
you
is for
be a
bitches.
good citizen. You
And they teach you
you
like you
save
go in,
money,
you go
buy a
into
house.
school and you're like a brick, you're like a log, and then you come out like this chipped, like, you know, polished like thing that you like. You go out and you just do whatever you can now. And so really, that's what it is. But like I said, double-edged sword. That's my true society that I want to live in. But we don't live in that society. So given the current state of government that we do have, having all these illegals come into the country, it's not advantageous for us, guys, right? Like, okay, so like when they're not paying taxes, but we're still subsidizing them with our own tax dollars, that's a problem, right? And like, and another thing too is like my sister, like just from my personal experience, my sister, she went to Arizona. She was trying to get in-state tuition from there for years. She was there for 5 years. Her vehicle was registered there. She lived there. She had her license there. By the time she graduated, she was paying out-of-state tuition for school. But like, if you're an illegal immigrant, like you can literally come in and like just get in-state tuition prices anywhere. So like, that's what I'm saying.
I
like,
think your argument is those Irish who came in, you're okay with them coming in, but can't nobody help them because that take money out of your pocket. Don't give them no fucking benefits and no shit like that. But you're okay with them coming in, the Irish.
Well, no. I'm okay with them coming in. I think first thing that we should do is just literally abolish governments. Like if we could live in a voluntary society, and some people say,
I mean, now we brought it back to now, as society is now.
Society is now currently, society
the Irish
is now currently.
And the immigrant analogy, the Irish, you were like, yeah, I wish somebody would have given my hand up. The immigrants, you're like, not so fast because it harms us. It's taking money out of my pocket. You could be giving that money to someone else.
I don't think anyone should be paying taxes, first of all, because I think taxation is not just theft, it's extortion, because if you don't pay it, they'll lock you in a cage. But given the current state of government that we do have, yes, it doesn't help. Here's the thing. You can only teach from what you know, and you can only give from what you have, right? So if I have a cup that's empty, how can I give from anyone else? I have to fill my own cup first, right?
This is an illusion.
So the United States,
smoke that you bought, the cup is not empty, right? You know the cup is full. They can print money, military. You know that cup's not empty. It's a bad analogy.
We have to take care of our people that are in the United States first before we can help other people. The amount of money they gave to Ukraine, like that could have ended homelessness completely, man.
It would not have, though, right? And the money they give to the immigrants, they're not going to give that to you, right? The only reason they give it to them is to get motherfuckers to argue and say, damn, fuck those immigrants. The cup is not empty. There's plenty of money. They could take a couple of these bombers out here. They could cure homelessness for 7-8 years. That money doesn't go to you. It's not the immigrants' fault of this. It's you can't blame them.
I'm not saying it's their fault. I'm blaming the government is what I'm blaming. So it's not their fault. I'm just saying, okay, like you take like a fraction, like a teeny fraction of the amount of trillions of dollars they've spent on wars to police the world that actually don't serve to make us safer. They actually make us less safe because the CIA calls it blowback, where you create enemies faster than you can kill them. And clearly we have more enemies today post 9/11. So like, if you want to do that, then if you could just take a fraction of that, you could cure homelessness. The United States is a country of vast wealth. It chooses to have homelessness, right? That's why I'm saying, like, tax dollars, like if everything was voluntary, like maybe there'd be more tolls on the road, or like maybe there'd be more expensive other places, but at least you're paying for things that you actually use and that you want to use voluntarily, not for like stuff that the government wants to so they can increase their pockets. Because like,
I thought the argument was the immigrants coming in are hurting us. I'm not so sure they're hurting us.
Well, yeah, they're absolutely hurting us because
the way they're running it, they're definitely hurting us.
Agreed. That's
they are shipping them in. They are shipping them in, paying for them, and not giving them working papers because they're literally money laundering people. Like, my opinion of
then they're
immigration is, I
politically
think anybody should be able to come here, but you better be able to get a job and support yourself.
then they stick them in certain cities and schools and shit. It seems like to build enmity. They don't stick them off somewhere where they actually could try to give them.
No, there's definitely
It
a
looked like
higher
this.
motive for these immigrants that they're shipping in, whether it's to buy votes, whether it's to I don't know what other
whatever.
it is than
It's
buying votes. I don't know what I don't know what else the immigrants
I
shipping
don't
here,
think it's the buying
paying
votes
for
because you
them,
don't
and
need to do that. And they send them to blue states, Chicago, New York. We're not going to go red. Anyway, you could send 1 million in there. It won't change the vote. It was going to be blue anyway. However, it could break shit up. I don't know. It's just that with you is a higher motive, but go ahead. So,
all right, Jim. Just like you were saying, they're sending these immigrants to blue states, correct? You just said that.
Chicago is one of them. I was walking over them when I left.
I've been covering Dalton, Illinois.
I know you've been covering it. Yes,
I know. I've been covering, and for me, looking at like government accountability, I know I have a feeling. I'm no genius, but I think that's why they're doing it. Is that they send immigrants to these blue states that are like, oh, we're going to give you, long as you can vote. And then they, and I try not, like I said, I'm not trying to get too political, but
go ahead, go for it.
But that's kind of the goal, is that if they can get enough votes, it keeps certain politicians. Like,
they're not going nowhere if you don't put one immigrant there. Chicago's voting Democrat, right? You can add 7 million or add none. Chicago's voting Democrat,
right?
We don't know nothing else with monkeys.
Check this out, Joe.
It's got to be money laundering then.
My
along
family,
those political. They're gonna do something.
I'm gonna drop some bars on you right now. My family, my whole life, has been Democrat.
Yeah.
Democrat.
Yeah, mine as well.
And then from just beyond Obama, I just when I first started voting, I was voting Democrat. Voted Democrat, Obama, Democrat, Obama second year Democrat. And it was when I started listening, not just to what they were preaching, it was about what they had to offer for what I felt they were offering the people. Not so much about, these promises, but it's the same thing with promises with Trump. Like, I got on the Trump train too for 4 years, but then I heard something that Trump said, and I was just like, done with him. I'm like, these politicians say the same thing that they want to get for those certain sides or whatever.
They say what they must say. Yeah,
right. And even that middle group, the middle group doesn't get looked at.
I didn't know there was a middle group. I got to Google libertarian. I don't even know what that shit is.
Yeah, look into it. But that's another discussion. But anyway, most people don't know. I tried to run for state representative here in Florida. I was trying to run for a state position.
Yeah.
And guess what? I put Republican on my card. And so I'm out there doing the whole, hey, my name's this. And I'm doing that whole, I got the suit and tie on. I'm doing everything. I'm trying to be the right guy. I'm like, And people are like, oh, are you Republican or Democrat? I'm like, you're asking me if I'm Republican or Democrat before you even hear what I have to offer or what I'm trying to.
So they're supposed to be leery of some motherfucker who walks up selling in politics. They're doing their job. And you should have had a good argument prepared. I don't know what to tell you.
I didn't want to run it on. I knew that I was Republican.
I hear where you're going.
Hold on. I knew I was Republican, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to be like, oh, I'm a Republican, because people are looking at my color. Like,
that's your benefit. That's your benefit. A black Republican, you could have got somebody to pay you money.
See, I didn't want to have to use my color, but that's what people were looking at. And that was the thing that really hurt me, is that I'm looking at these people that are looking at me because of my color. I was in the hood. I'm not saying I'm not criticizing the hood. I'm just saying I was in the hood because
I don't know how many
that,
Republican votes you were going to get in the hood, bro.
But I was trying to show them what I could offer and say, hey, this is what I want to do for your community, for the community, for all of us. That's what I was trying to do. But the second I said I was Republican, shit went right the fuck out the window.
Bet it did.
Hey, judge a man not by the content of their color, but don't judge a man by the color of their skin, but by the content of the character.
If the cop comes to you with the shield, the same way we prejudge them because they signed an agreement that says we're going to take your money when you run that red light. The politicians have signed an agreement. All right, so it ain't a lot you really could do. You've sold yourself. You got to agree with other people. Yeah.
If I was in that position, just imagine what I could have changed for those same folks.
You know what? If you became a lieutenant, you could do really good, or a chief. You got to hang in there a long time, a bunch of years, but think of the good you could have did. The logic doesn't hold. No, the logic doesn't hold. You'd have been a shitty guy for 12 years.
I don't want to. After 7 years of all this stuff, I want to hold everybody's rights. It's not about just black or white or Mexican or illegal and not illegal, whatever. Because even the illegals, as they cross the border, they still have rights here. Whether you agree with it or disagree with it, they come across, they're in America, they have rights. Yeah, I want to hold people's I want to hold people's rights. Now, if they break the law, I want those people to be held accountable. Just like you would, if you broke the law, you would want to be held accountable for the shit. Hold on, and then for everybody that's watching, how many Erie, Mr. Host, Mr. Erie County, how many people are in the chat or how many people are watching right now? I'm going to hold some accountability right now.
380.
380? For 380 people, I got arrested for a DUI.
Ooh, yay. What you want?
I can hold the accountability because I went through the processes and I learned the problems that I had within myself. And now I'm starting to change myself because I learned that I had problems. Unfortunately, that's not how it works with cops and government and blah, blah, blah. But at least I can hold accountability for myself. Who else is holding accountability? Whenever you get arrested for some shit, who's going to hold up? There's not civil rights lawyers everywhere, right?
Most people make a phone call. No, I'm alone.
We're all alone.
Yeah.
I don't have any. I've been violated. How many times have I had guns pointed at me? How many times have I been arrested? How many times, other than the DUI that I've been talking about, I've accepted the DUI arrest. And I knew I had a problem when I went through the process. I can accept that. But
so if a guy speeds solo, do we I don't know, that nigga doing 50.
No. Let him go. Let him go.
All right. I like DMA's approach, man. You harm nobody.
How about this one? Better yet, the guy that doesn't have a driver's license, let him go.
Fuck do I care?
What do I care?
You didn't have to have a driver's license to ride your horse and buggy.
It's nonsensical. It's magic, right?
You have to pay money to the government to
you only need a driver's license to drive, right? What if you're just traveling?
Yeah. Hold on, Joe. Same thing. You smoking weed. There was a prohibition on alcohol, right? There was a prohibition. Yeah. As of right now, there's a federal prohibition on marijuana, right?
Yeah.
They repealed the alcohol prohibition. How come they haven't repealed the marijuana prohibition?
They're doing it piecemeal, right? State by state. They haven't done it federal.
They make much money on that.
Fuck massa, right? Yeah. I'm not looking for no schedule for them to tell me when I can smoke weed, man. Here, in front of 380 people, I travel with this shit state through state. Fuck massa. Shit.
Yeah, and
Fuck
we're,
that, dude. Don't determine nothing.
hold on, I'm all for it, dude. If you wanna smoke weed, if whatever it is that you want to do to better your life or ruin your life, I'm all for it. I don't care, and I'm not saying marijuana is ruining your life. I'm not saying heroin.
I didn't take it personal.
There's nothing that long as you're not creating a victim, you want to do heroin, do it all you want. What I am saying is if you have to start stealing, killing, doing whatever, then there's a problem. Victimless
we're on the
crimes.
same page.
That's a nice
victimless crimes. And that's I shouldn't have to fucking go fishing just to carry a gun.
That's eerie on that car if y'all can't see it. It's
You see what police station that is?
That's me, bro.
You see what police station that is?
Wait, well, hold on. Let me zoom. Fuck, I can't. You're lying. That's eerie.
Uvalde.
Uvalde. That was, I was after the Uvalde City Council meeting when I asked those Texans if they needed a Yankee to come down there and teach them how to be a man.
Bet.
I made national news on that one.
Yeah.
But we are closing in on 4 hours, guys. We gotta wrap this up, I think.
Yeah, I'm done. In Joe, trust me, man, because I'm not saying anything political about it, but I understand both sides. Trust me, man. I've been on both sides. I've been on the entire spectrum, and I understand. We want peace. We all want peace, right?
Well,
unfortunately.
Listen. Here's what me. I think if we're gonna pull this off, we got to do the truth thing, and we got to be men. All right, we can't fear things and all that. We're just throwing about a few different philosophies here. Motherfuckers need to stop being so fucking scared, so we can learn this shit, communicate, see where motherfuckers coming from, examine all arguments, and then move the fuck forward, man. Ain't nobody in jeopardy up here and no shit like that. All right, my battery's dying anyway. Gary, Erie, I had a blast. Damn, I love you, mind, solo. I love you, nigga.
All right, man. Peace.
See you, Joe. See, I wouldn't have a live panel without Joe because Joe's the bullshit detector, man. He sniffs that shit out and he don't let it go.
Yeah, well,
that's the rule.
I try to be a voice of reason, but everybody's strong. Even you, Erie County, and you, DMA. I wasn't coming after you. I just want to let you know I wasn't coming after you. It was just the whole gun thing. I was just like, yeah. But
well, it's like a generalization, though, right? Like, and then, like I said, I'm open to being educated, but it's general consensus